So, good evening and welcome to the November 1st, 2021.
The chair's on track today.
Scheduled school committee meeting. It is 6 p.m. and I will call the meeting to order. This meeting is being both audio and videotaped, and I would ask that if anyone in the audience is doing that, so please let us know. I don't see anybody, and there is nobody here. So we will rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We can start with a roll call, Pam, if you don't mind.
Sure. Pamela Blair, Assistant Superintendent for Business.
Gregory Thompson.
And Tyler Killa.
Gordon Smith, Superintendent of Schools.
Sarah Trulio.
Bill Fonseca.
Elizabeth Marcin Boucher.
Nick Cassidy.
Thank you, everybody. We have some minutes up for approval.
Move to approve the October 4th, 2021 executive session meeting minutes.
Motion made by Greg,
Second.
second by Antonella. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And that motion carries 5-0.
Move to approve the October 4th, 2021 regular session meeting minutes.
Motion made by Bill,
I'll second.
second by Beth. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, nay. And that motion carries 5-0 as well. There's no one here with us today, but if there's anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to the committee, you could raise your hand and we'll let you in. I don't see any hands from the folks that are there, so we'll move forward to committee and subcommittee communications. Nick, do you want to start us tonight?
Sure, I will.
Awesome.
All right, so since the last time we met, since it's been a month, like nothing too crazy again has gone on at ELHS, but some notable things are yesterday our girls varsity soccer team did win Western Mass, so we were all happy about that. All the posts on Instagram. Everyone was like really crazy about that, especially because it's a lot of their like senior year stuff. And sports are coming to an end for fall. At school in the last 2 weeks, sophomores and juniors have taken the PSATs. And last week, our culinary arts class hosted Cafe East, which is a student-run and teacher-facilitated program where students make food and they're able to sell them to other students and staff. I went with some of my classes and everyone had a great time, and it was kind of great because like last year we couldn't do it because of COVID and everyone missed it, and we all remember having the best time. I mean, they couldn't come to all of our classes and it was outside, so it was COVID safe, but we all had a great time there. And once again on November 10th, the NHS induction ceremony is taking place, and we have over 40 kids this year being inducted, which is very exciting. And just to add a little plug at the end of this, the class of 2022 is hosting a Texas Roadhouse fundraiser also on the 10th, and we would love to see support. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you for that.
I know. I have to say my daughter came home and she talked to me about Cafe East. It was unbelievable. It was a fantastic event. They sold out.
Sold out. I mean,
So
by
excited
the
about
third
it.
time they had it, we were all sneaking down like 5 minutes early, and it was sold out even before it started.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So
had great
it's nice.
food.
I'm happy they were able to do it outside. It would be lovely if we could keep it like over the winter. At least like, I know it's hard, but.
Through November 12th, that's what I have it right now.
No way.
Yeah,
You tried.
mid-November. I did talk to the principals at the schools, the ones that have them, and
Supposed to snow
it's hard
clean
because
up.
snow happens, and
Yeah.
I need to be realistic about it. So honest to goodness, I just sent an email to the vendor to say we need them through the 12th and
That's
let all
good.
the principals know.
I mean,
So,
I hope.
few more
I
weeks.
just- it was
We're gonna
great
get
they
them
could do it.
it was so much fun.
I'm working on it.
Is that what we're thinking? It'd be advisable to get them back, or?
It would probably be
I think
advisable.
The students enjoyed them. I think each school is assessing how
Okay.
much they
Right.
used them.
Yep.
Okay.
Certainly, we know the high school used them quite a lot.
Yeah, there's
When did
kids. I sit right next to them. Like I'm like right next to them outside, and there's always kids outside, and they're always coming in and out and stuff. So
That's great.
Yeah.
And I think
Will
the
the
high school's
tables
also
still be there?
using
The tables will still be there, I believe.
That's all you need to
Sorry,
table.
I was just gonna say, the high school's also using the inner courtyard, right?
Yeah, I do believe some kids go in there. I mean, I'm never over there at that time, but I do know kids will go in and out of there, and it is an option.
Right. and classes can use it, the really interior.
Oh, the interior courtyard. I love going in there for like environmental science, or sometimes for other classes, they'll be like, okay, we're doing a trip, but you still have to do your workout here. But
So I think the message is clear that the students really like the tents and outdoor. We're doing our best to
yes.
work that out for you guys.
So if schools want them, we're going to try to get them.
Absolutely,
Great.
yes, absolutely.
Big stuff.
We have grant funds that can help us in that area.
Perfect.
Okay, Student of the Month for the LPVEC for October. Advanced Manufacturing Technology 3, Michael Burkhardt. Information Support Services and Networking, Connor Wynn. And Technical Career Exploratory, Berlin Figueroa. Congratulations to all our students.
Yes, that's great. Same, I made it to a few of the JV and stayed for a couple of the varsity games over the past couple weeks, for both the boys and the girls. And just, I think it speaks so much to the dedication that folks put in, probably not only their whole careers, but especially last year, given how disrupted seasons were and how great it is to see both teams make it to the Western Mass Finals, and then for the ladies team to be able to come out as the Western Mass champions. So wish them luck at state.
And I think we have, correct me if I'm wrong, Nick, we have field hockey playing in the playoffs, state playoffs. We have boys soccer will go on to state playoffs. Girls soccer will go on to state playoffs. Am I missing anybody? You guys have your PBIACs coming up?
Yes, we do. That is this Saturday because it got canceled from last Saturday.
Right, because of the rain,
I
right?
think
Mhm.
golf
And
did
then
it.
golf did very well.
Golf did very well this year as
They
well.
already had their tournament, but you have some folks that may go from PBACs to states?
After PVACs, our top 7 do make it onto Western Mass, but then after that, it's only the top 30 kids from that one race, which is insanely hard to do, which not to be like our team won't, but no one on our team is that qualified to.
Yeah.
But I mean, there is one more race after
Okay,
this Saturday.
so you have some big races
Yeah.
coming up.
Varsity race,
Yeah.
it's going to be crazy.
Don't see me doing it.
football too late.
I'm sorry, thank you.
Yes.
Football did, you're absolutely right. And so I think they're determining today who football goes on to play. Thank you for saying
Wow.
that. Yeah, because I think they were on the bubble. But the power ratings, this is a new tournament, the way they're doing it this year. And so they're ironing out the kinks. But one of the things I think everybody was very happy about was that every area could do something like the PVIAC did, which was install or implement something, that is very similar to the Western Mass playoffs and championships, which they did with soccer, they did with field hockey. They still have the PVIC race. Football never had that piece, but they always had the last few years almost like mini playoffs after their 7th game. So I think it's somewhat similar.
I did get an email late this afternoon, haven't had a chance to look at it, with the updated tournament seedings.
And they may be traveling
Yeah, they might be traveling.
quite far.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I haven't, it came from Rich Pearson, and I haven't had a chance to look at it yet.
Thanksgiving football is home.
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
Thanksgiving football's home, and so that still will happen
All right.
for
That's
everyone
nice.
across the state.
Still on, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is great.
Great.
So,
I don't have anything.
Greg?
Just a point of information for folks that the Board of Health has been seated and is meeting tomorrow. And I believe on the agenda is the mask mandate for discussion. So folks can stay tuned for results from that. That's all. Thank you.
That's part of my update, so.
Gotcha.
Mr. Thompson's got me covered.
Our chair is in a big hurry tonight, so we're
Okay.
trying to help
Well,
out.
it's timely. Making
I
sure
know.
we stay on task.
I need to.
There we go. With that, Gordon, update on health data and any new information related to DESI.
Okay, I think we have Ms.
Kelly's in,
Lombard, our nurse leader, in the audience, if we
Hi,
can
Kelly.
turn her on.
Hello,
Hi, Kelly.
There she is.
how's everybody doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
So, Mr. Thompson, just let everybody know, we do have a Board of Health up and running, and there's a meeting tomorrow, which is great. Couple things that are in your packet, but good for public awareness. People may have seen the press release from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education last week. Commissioner Riley has extended the mask mandate for K-12 or pre-K-12 districts across the state till January 15th. Now, with that said, there still is the option or the opportunity to look at school by school, whether the school population and staff meet an 80% vaccinated threshold. I know Ms. LeBombard has some figures for us. She's been working with the nurses, and we've been working with staff and also families. To a certain extent, we have information on vaccines there as well. That comes through just the regular health information. And so she'll be able to give you some information on that. Just in terms of public consumption, you're probably looking at what the health department releases each week, but the way the cases are reported each week, you can get them town by town. Usually it's reported late in the day on Thursday. And East Long Meadow, this is the town of, not the school department, but town of. We seem to be somewhat sort of plateauing somewhere around, let's say, 40 cases every 2 weeks. The weeks of 9/26 to 10/9, we were at 41. The weeks of 10/3 to 10/16, we were at 38 cases. And just last week on Thursday night, they reported, 10/16 to 10/28, we were at 43 cases. So we're right around that 40 number, for what it's worth. In the schools, I'm reporting every Wednesday the positive cases in the schools to DESE. And, as people, I'm sure all of you are getting notices when there's a positive case in a school. It's not every week, every school, where we are seeing positive cases enter, knock on wood. And I think Ms. LeBombard would echo this, but certainly I'll let her give the stats and so forth. We're not seeing the transmission. When we have a positive, we're not seeing all the close contacts necessarily move into, and this is something that last year we also looked at and did not see happen. You don't see the close contacts necessarily become positive. They are quarantining, and then they can go get their PCR test on that 5th day, and if it's negative, return on the 8th day. But we're not seeing, thankfully, the transmission, even though we have had positives in school. With that said, Ms. Lombard, do you want to bring us into some of the information that the nurses have gathered? And then any thoughts you have in terms of going forward?
So in terms of the vaccine collection, at the high school, we have 55% of staff showing documentation of vaccines and 65% of the students at the high school. At Birchland Park, we have 37% of the staff showing documentation of vaccine and 42% of the students. We're not looking at the other schools because those students cannot be vaccinated yet. So
And that's staff right now reporting. We may have higher percentages.
yes, definitely.
Vaccinated.
Right. Those are staff that have reported to the school nurse or show documentation of their vaccine status. So there could be more.
Right. And we're going to continue to work with our staff to, if they're comfortable to voluntarily provide that information. And we'll see what happens as the CDC looks at this new vaccine for students 5 through 11. Because we know that's coming. I know Ms. Lombard has spoken to Dr. Clark about that. Any thoughts there, Ms. Lombard?
So when I asked Dr. Clark about vaccines for this age group, she said that parents are probably going to want their pediatricians to give that vaccine. And there was a survey done, I don't know who did it, but they were saying that about 33% of the parents are going to wait and see. I did reach out to pediatric services, and they are going to be doing the vaccines, and so is Redwood Pediatrics. I'm not sure about Pioneer Valley yet. And according to Dr. Clark, right now, just the physicians' offices are getting the vaccine, not pharmacies.
In addition to the Board of Health being up and running with 2 new members and 1 existing member, we should also have soon a new health director. An offer has been extended, and I believe, Mr. Mackey, it's now public knowledge in terms of the new health director.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, so Tammy Spencer, I believe is her name, and she, I think is going to be joining us somewhere around November 15th. So we hope to get that same type of working relationship. We've continued with the health department and have had a very good working relationship with the folks who currently are there, and they're going to continue to be there. But then when Ms. Spencer arrives, we'll try to develop that partnership we had before.
Definitely.
Go ahead, yeah.
Kelly, question about, as we try to get closer to the 80%, if we want to apply for the waiver for a mask mandate from the state, the student percentage, is that taken from the database? That's not self-reporting, is that correct?
I actually purchased a program that is attached to our health program in the health rooms. And if a parent allows it or opts in, we're able to get that information. It comes directly from the virtual gateway into our program. So that's where I'm getting my information. I suppose there could be more if, parents decided they didn't want to opt into that virtual gateway.
How many families did not opt into that virtual gateway? Do you have an idea?
No, I do not.
No? One of the reasons why I ask is when I had gone to my doctor, she could not see that I had received the vaccine within that database when I had received it. So if it's not in the database and we're not asking for self-reporting, are we missing some of those that have received the vaccine, which is important to try to get us closer to that 80%?
We definitely could. So because the vaccine is not a requirement, if we don't get it through there, we could ask families if they wanted to, give us the information. But I mean, one thing I did notice, I go through every school, every student, and I update the immunizations. And I noticed that for a while, I wasn't getting that second dose. And I think it has to do with manpower and who is actually putting it into the program. Because this time when I did it, I got a lot more that had the second shot.
Well, that's so to that point, that's why I'm wondering if we should ask families to say, in an attempt to get a real look at what our numbers are you willing to self-report and then cross-reference that with the database and to see if that 65 is a true number or not, to just help us in our efforts to encourage vaccination to as many people as possible.
Well, what I was
So I can run a report and get who has had 2 vaccines and is fully vaccinated. Then I can run a report of students that have only had 1. And then I can, do one that haven't had any. So we could narrow it down.
And then reach out to those that haven't had any, or at least that are not in the database, is what you're saying.
Right. Or at least the ones that had 1, find out, did they have the second one? Or will they be getting the second one?
So the 65%, is that fully vaccinated or is that 1 vaccination?
Fully vaccinated.
Fully vaccinated. Okay. So, I mean, it's not too far off. It's not great. It's not what I had hoped that we would be at. Now, in terms of the staff, how do we get more staff to report? Because I got to believe more than 55% have been vaccinated. And again, if we're trying to get to that 80% number.
Yeah, I think it's going to be more communication with staff, more outreach. I've sent communication. Mr. Gonzalez, president of the ELEA, has sent communication, but we can continue to do that. And, maybe it's also visiting staff meetings and just being in person.
Yeah.
And are they completing a survey to self-report?
No, they're bringing in actually their information and sharing it with. So
Yeah, we actually have to have the proof and the documentation.
It would just be good, in my perspective, I'm a senior in the high school. I would love to have an opportunity for her to have some normalcy. I'm not saying that everyone has to go maskless. Everyone will always have the opportunity to wear a mask. But if we can meet that 80% threshold, and allow the option, I would be in favor of making some effort to get us there. And that may be a month, maybe 2 months, maybe 3 months, but we have to start kind of planning that before the year passes by again, because in my opinion, and I'm not a medical professional by any means, I don't know that the numbers are going to get that much better between now and early spring. I mean, maybe they will, but I don't know if they will. So if our only thing we're shooting for is the 80%, then we should make an effort to try to get there and get the data for real. So
Sure. So we can start to run those reports and then target our outreach to families, and then work on our communication strategy with staff.
okay, great, thank you. Sarah?
Yes, I had a question relative to the number of students in quarantine, because as I was thinking about DESE guidelines and our current policies, besides lunch, really, when would we be having close contacts?
Lunch is the biggest.
Yep.
Absolutely.
But there's space. So, because I've just heard from a lot of families over the past couple of weeks that there are large numbers of kids going into quarantine.
But we're following the quarantine protocol. It's not East Long Meadows protocol.
Right.
It's the state protocol.
Which I understand,
Yeah.
but if we're staying
So lunch is
part at lunch,
they're unmasked.
where else besides lunch are we getting these
Yeah, so
close
lunch
contacts from?
usually is the biggest, and I would say in rooms where we have smaller groups,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of interpersonal contact, so to speak, with assistants and so forth. I'm not going to go into too much detail there. That's another area where we have some contact.
And I don't think we're focused as much on the spacing in the classrooms as we once were, which I don't disagree with.
That is true.
Yeah.
Which, I'm not saying I disagree with that, I'm just trying to
So that's where it is as well, I
But
think.
we're masked. And
But I think that's not,
no, the guidance,
Yeah, no,
Clear.
but what I think Mr. Thompson's saying is we do group work now.
Yep.
And so you're going to be within 3 feet closer than, and so that may, if that goes beyond the 15 minutes,
even with a math.
even with a
Even with
mask.
a
That's what I'm saying.
So,
That's what it is.
but I'm just trying to avoid, especially as we close doors,
Right,
having to have 25, 26, 27 kids
sure.
quarantining in a
Right.
building right now.
Yeah.
And it might be worth us doing 12 minutes, setting a timer, having kids separate.
No, it's a
Yeah.
great
And
point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but to that
Yeah.
point, Sarah, though, that's how crazy this is, though. Because what's 12 minutes versus 15?
I get that, but
We know
what's
that,
what's
Greg,
eight
That's
days?
just the way
Yeah, I
it
know.
is.
8 days
I
out
know.
of the
Yeah, that's
classroom
true. Yeah.
is not ideal for any of us.
Yeah, right.
And I know that,
We have
like,
to do that to keep kids in rooms.
Yeah.
Do we
I
then
know
have
the
to
kids
start
in
doing
my
that?
classroom, I do reading one-on-one. We do it fast, we do it quick, and I move because I don't want to
Right.
be looked at with a finger wag at me.
Yeah.
That said, in Hamden,
Mhm.
they've got the National Guard. Now, I don't think any staff member from our school should have to do like one of those stick tests for the kids.
Mhm.
But I also don't know if it's a good use of the National Guard, but they have the National Guard at TWB. And if we quarantine within our realm, okay, because of close contact within the school, they can get tested in the morning. I know it's a hassle, but at least the parents can get to work eventually.
Mhm.
Can we implement that? That said, I have a student whose mother got COVID and that child was home and she just got tested and she's home for another week and she's
Right.
doing remote because it was her mom that got it. You
Sure.
can't use it for that, which makes no sense, but can we do that?
So,
And do
so
we
what
wanna
you're
do
talking
that?
about is the test and stay
Yeah.
program, which initially, when we discussed it back in August and early September, we opted not to do that.
We did because they were talking about using our own staff.
Correct. But I think
Well, more than that.
Ms.
Well, there's more than
LaBombard also did speak to, she meets pretty regularly with nurse leaders, at least a group of 7, and has gotten some information. I don't know, Ms. LaBombard, if you want to share just some of the information of experiences with test and stay in some of our neighboring districts.
Yeah, I'd like to know.
Okay, so first of all, you have to determine that a student is eligible, and you have to have consent from a parent. It has to be in school. So let's say you have a staff member that's positive, so you have 9 close contact students. If they have consent and they're eligible, meaning that it happened, that it was in school, not in the community, they can get tested. And at one of the schools, they're doing it like 7 to 9 in the morning. And what you do is you test them for 5 days. If they're negative, they can stay in school. So They can
This-
stay in school if they're negative, but you got to test them every day. And what I'm hearing from these nurses is, the students are not coming every day.
Okay.
So then what's happening is whoever's running it is saying you have to be tested for 5 days. And the nurses are saying, okay, but right now we're at day 8. So that kid could really come back to school. So they're following it because it's 5 days, but it doesn't make sense, because if you were not tested and you were close contact, you would stay home. At day 5, you would get tested. If you were negative, you would come back day 8. So the other thing is, this test is an antigen test, and our protocol says PCR test. So let's say they're positive with this antigen test, then they need to go for a PCR test, which needs to be positive, and that trumps the antigen test.
I hear you.
It is, for me, it's
Yeah.
slightly a
I
dystopian kind of feel that we're sticking swabs up kids' noses.
Well, I know.
Yeah.
When they're readily available at the local pediatrician or the
Yeah.
CVS. So if it wasn't available and this was their own option, but
Yeah.
There's enough other avenues to go down.
But I don't think it's just about availability.
well, it's about the
No.
state.
No, I
That's
would
about
say, I would say
50
just
No, I
trying
get
to
that
get
too.
them into
Oh, I get it all. Yeah,
school.
but
The whole thing's dystopian.
What
Yeah,
are
it is.
the lunches?
These masks.
like? They have less people, they have less kids in the lunches and. are
So
they
there
eating
are
like-
fewer students in all of our cafeterias. In some schools, they're actually eating in the classrooms. Meadowbrook is one of the schools. Say at the high school, that what they've tried to do, and this is going to be more challenging as we move inside, they try to spread it out as far as they can. But the reality is, we're challenged to get to 3 feet, which is why I think people enjoy the outside.
Well, they're probably not even doing it. Right? You
What are
guys,
the lunches
So
like
when
at
we started
school?
doing lunch, you could
Yeah.
only have 6 at a table. Like if there's 12 seats, we would sit like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like all separated.
Every other-
And we had like numbers at the seats, you have to scan it. No one really ever scanned in. But then like after that, when it was getting cold, people wanted to come inside, and then there weren't enough seats. So, and then there were people going around saying we had to move apart from each other. And after a while, that didn't really work. So now we all just sit next to each other
Mhm.
and like we
Without
don't have masks on. So like I don't really know if it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, I can't speak to it, but like it's not the classroom problem, because like there's so many people in class now that it's not like when we're half in, half out like last year. There's so many people in class that like the 15 minutes, that's the person sitting right next to you. It's not even like working those groups.
Yeah.
It's like at that point, it like doesn't even matter because you're not moving, you're sitting there. But like all teachers are very good about keep your mask up over your nose, blah, blah, blah. But it's kind of like lunch, I would say, or like other times or sports or outside school and you see other people, not necessarily maybe the classroom, even though it's, I guess, the 15 minutes and if you're exposed to someone that long, but I mean,
Did they add another lunch to the high school?
yes.
They did, yeah. So
Yes,
they
I have
could-
4th lunch.
and they would actually
Very
super
Sure.
hungry by then?
Yes,
to really
absolutely.
get to, if you wanted to go to 6 feet like last year, they would have to add a 5th and maybe a 6th lunch.
Yeah, or
because what
sit
they
somewhere
did is
else because the
They
cafeteria is
didn't
just,
take the small gym over like they did last year because they want to run PE and allow them to utilize both gyms.
Could they
Are they
add-
using the hallway by the gym
Yep.
for tables and such?
no,
It's
there's,
just-
there's no tables down there. I know the ones
sit
by
on
the
the floor?
auditorium, there are benches, but not many people sit out there. You can only have like 2 people and no one wants to stand and eat. They'd
Right.
rather just sit at one table with their friends.
And they
So,
used to have more traffic pre-COVID in the
Yes.
hallway by the auditorium.
Well, there's probably fire codes too. I'm just
Yeah.
throwing that out there
Yeah,
that
no, I think. I was gonna
safety,
say
Yeah.
too.
you know, there's
that's what I
only-
was gonna-
only
I was
certain
How do you
things.
feel about the 55% in terms of your peers in terms of vaccination? Do you think it's higher than that?
I mean, it's
Anecdotally.
probably higher than that,
Yeah.
but like I have some friends which is like, I just got my second vaccine. Like,
Yeah.
you just got your second vaccine? But I mean, I don't really know because I guess we don't really talk about it. But like all my friends that I hang out with, they've all gotten their
And
vaccine.
that's what I.
But I'm sure there's some mishap with reporting because I get 1,000 emails a day. I'm sure parents are missing out on the emails where they have to like report something for their child.
But we're
they're
not
missing out
asking
on.
that. That's the point.
So
Oh,
we
yeah,
can,
we're not
we,
there
we
yet.
can do more targeted outreach
Yeah.
because it sounds like, to the point, I think that Ms. LeBombard was reporting, we have a high percentage that have their first dose,
Yeah.
at least according to the registry. And so maybe if we target that group and ask, have you gotten your second dose?
Right. Kelly,
No.
what's that percent, do you know?
I
One
think-
shot.
I think it was like 40 at the high school and maybe 60 at Birchland Park, 60 students. that
That's
still need the second shot.
So isn't the percentage, one shot only in the high
How many
70s or
students?
low 80s?
How many at the high
500?
school?
Is that right?
I think it's.
No, no, it's not that. No, you mean the ones that have only had one?
Yes,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay, so in the high school, it's probably 40 students that we need to get the second one.
Okay, 40 students.
Right, and then at Birchland, it's probably 60 students.
Correct.
That need the second
How many
one.
kids are there?
But I wonder if that's because it's not in the registry yet, because it's taking longer to get in there.
5%, but there's still 5-6% we gain if they've got
But
the
we could
second.
definitely call those families and say, have you, has your child received the second one? Or do you plan on them receiving the second one?
Yeah.
Sure.
That would make our numbers go up. I just can't count them as fully vaccinated.
Right.
I have a question about the lunch again.
Yep.
I don't feel like that's a really good plan for
In
the
terms of
high
four
school. No, I mean, they're all sitting together without masks on. What's the point of them being in classrooms with masks on? If they're all sitting together at
Well,
lunch?
they're supposed to have their masks on when they're not eating. They're
Right.
only supposed to take their mask off when they're eating.
It's logistics, Antonella. We
It
can't do it.
is. Yeah, you can only do so
I mean,
much.
they are
I mean, really, that's what it
separated to a
comes down
certain
to.
extent. We can
So-
revisit, the other piece that I think
Yeah.
Nick said is what they're trying to do is scan, so we know where the cohorts are. Are they still doing the
Right, but
scanning?
they're not.
I
doing it.
mean,
What's that, your ID?
no, so there's this little like QR
Oh,
code on the
okay.
actual table, and then at your seat, there's like, I think my seat's like 110 or something, and you have to like type in what cap you're in, and then like what number you're at, and you submit it.
So is everybody doing this?
No.
And that's part of the problem.
No.
I don't like it.
But it's for like to know if someone gets COVID when you're sitting with at lunch.
Right.
But I don't think there are some people that I know have never done it once at
That's
all.
why.
Mm.
What's the point of,
But
So I can
maybe
check
I
on
think
that.
we need to just tighten, because if we have these protocols in place,
Mm.
and then we're starting to see larger numbers of kids going out for quarantine, then,
Are we seeing larger numbers going up?
I mean, I had quite a few phone calls from
Not at the high
families,
school right now,
but at the,
at the younger schools.
Kelly, what about those that are quarantined for being direct contact? Are we tracking how many actually come down with COVID?
Yes,
And what kind of percentage is that? Any idea?
most of them are negative. I would say
Like-
almost all of them. Maybe one came back positive. But I
Ever?
don't believe it was in school transmission. So the other thing is, you might be hearing from parents whose children are close contacts due to outside community
no,
things.
not, they're not calling me as a result of outside community transmission. They're calling me as a result of, being quarantined by the school department, like by one of the buildings, because they were deemed to close contact in the school. That's how they're landing
Yeah.
in
But I
my
think
email
what-
or on my phone.
I think what Mr. Lombard's saying is that we're getting the information that they're a close contact from an outside source, meaning the health department.
Right. If they weren't exposed in school, they were exposed in the community.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, look, that's not
And then
my
we have to,
interpretation. The
okay,
conversations have been, like, these have been,
How many kids in quarantine right now? Do we know? Students?
I would say not very many. In fact, we had a positive individual at the high school last week, and we had no close contacts because the students were vaccinated and no symptoms.
but that's,
So do we have a handful maybe that are quarantining right now, or we have zero?
Maybe a few, maybe a handful, yes.
you're
but
close,
last week was closer to 30, Greg.
Okay.
And the week before that was
Yeah.
probably like 25,
and most of those are coming at the elementary level.
because they're not vaccinated.
Right.
So when you're vaccinated, it takes you on a different path on the flow chart.
Exactly.
If you're not
Exactly.
vaccinated,
Yeah.
you're out 8 days of school.
Okay.
So that is causing angst for
Well,
families.
so maybe the vaccination now will help them.
If they choose to get their child
Well,
vaccinated.
it's the same thing. I mean, it's
It is, but
across the board.
I
But the
also
other
think if
thing we can
we're
do is look at
Well, we look at
processes
the
and
protocols, yeah.
protocols, and
how are
if
we
we're adhering
identifying
to
close
those,
contacts
exactly.
and how do we tighten up on, to your point, okay, we don't want to discourage group work, but maybe we should be thinking about timeframes and time limits.
But I think the biggest problem is probably the lunches, and I don't know how you get around that.
well, how come at the elementary schools, they can have lunch in the classroom?
Only
Why
lunch
can't they-
schools doing lunch in the classroom.
Yeah, just
Okay,
beyond
so
that.
they can't do that at the high school.
I don't know that we need to. We're not close contact. We're not quarantining people at the high school right now.
Right,
I
I
think
think
the
that's,
problems are
I think that's what
dealing
if we can dig deeper into the data in terms of who we're
Yeah.
quarantining, where we're quarantining, and if we can change habits slightly to quarantine less. Because we can all kind of
Sure.
make
I mean,
assumptions, but maybe we
the
just go
goal
that
is,
deeper.
is to keep people safe and keep people in school.
Right,
Right now, our biggest challenge in terms of close contact quarantining is happening at the elementary level.
okay.
And then there's no out for
You're,
them.
you're seeing close contacts? We're
I'm
not seeing them
not.
at the high school.
I'm not, but it's starting to get cold out.
Yeah.
And everyone's gonna be inside
Sure.
and they're all sitting at a table together.
So we need to
without
tighten up,
masks on.
yeah, we need to tighten up our protocols and
Yeah, but
ensure.
they're packed, the lunches are packed.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't think classrooms would work just because the way high school students will get a second lunch, or if they get from the vending machine and then going like eating in class and trying to go back and forth. Like
Yeah.
my lunch is only
they may
25
have
minutes.
to spread into the small gym again. They
Yes.
may have to do that.
Well, but our numbers in the high school aren't high, right? Because of vaccinations, they're on a different track, so we're not
Okay,
seeing it.
Are we supposed to be following this protocol or not?
Yeah, we are, the protocol is safety.
Regardless
You know,
of the numbers.
I'm thinking
That's why.
too, and I know our contract
Well,
with one vendor's.
But
ending
no, we have to
with the
change
tents.
the protocols.
But if we got one that
Because
was
of
right
the- there's
next to the
nothing.
building and we
But we're not,
facilitated
still not getting
the
the
space
numbers.
heater, and I get it costs
maybe
money, and I get
the
that we
protocol-
I
don't
think
have,
we have to
okay.
revisit it. Yeah.
Wait one
Right,
second.
but don't overreact on it either, though, is what I'm saying.
Time
Because we
out.
need some normalcy.
You're
We
not-
got 4 conversations going
Take
on.
control of this.
I am. You're talking over me still. So let's let them finish that and we'll jump to what you're talking about after. So your point though, Antonella, was if we have protocols in place, we should be following them
Right.
regardless of whether or not numbers are high.
That's what.
Well,
If
or
they aren't necessary,
transverse that.
if they are necessary, then they should be adjusted. But we shouldn't have a protocol and not follow it,
Agreed.
which I think is what we're asking.
Okay.
What we need to do with the leadership
Yeah.
team is to connect with the principals, talk to
But
them
don't
about
overreact.
what is or isn't working, and then how we need to make an adjustment or not make an adjustment so that at least if we have a policy, it's not just
We're following it.
Okay,
for names or for
agreed.
policy's sake. It's actually being implemented.
Thank you, Sarah.
So my thought was, if we are finding that we're in a space situation with high school, and I know the contracts with the tents are running out, and there, it'll get cold in the fact, we're still gonna have to figure it out, but they do have, and I know the electric situation in this school is dire, but I don't know, if we took one of those tents, we put it up close to a building, we figured out how to put sides on it.
Snow load.
For the snow
The
load.
snow load?
Yes,
Yeah, then there's nothing out there that we
No.
can use.
Yeah, I
not
mean,
short of
what
building.
they
Yeah.
would need to
Right,
do
safety
is,
hazard.
I'm gonna let the high school administration, we're gonna talk to them and
All
let
right.
them figure out how they're gonna map that. 'Cause they've been wrestling with it for a while.
Yeah,
Right, but again, if they're not seeing close contacts in the high school, it's not an issue. That
I
we
mean, the key
don't
is
need
that
to
you have a
overreact.
population that is vaccinated.
Right,
I just think we might need to then adjust that
Okay.
policy so we don't have it
I agree.
just at surface level.
Yep.
If it's there, it should be implemented.
I'm
Yes.
always do what you say what you do
Yes.
kind of person. I agree with that. Thank you, sir.
Yes. Right. And I saw in the chat. Yeah, I just saw it now.
All right.
We can, after this item, I'll take a motion if folks want to amend the agenda. We have some technical difficulties, so some people are waiting to talk.
Oh.
The link wasn't working at the
You
onset.
can just do that. You're the chair.
Yeah, I was gonna let this item finish.
No,
Yeah.
I think
All
we're
right.
done.
I think we're done.
Are we done with health? We
Good
sure?
discussion.
Yeah.
I think we're done.
We could put this up forever.
But I do
Yeah.
think it would be helpful the next time to have those quarantine numbers.
Mhm.
Yep.
I think that will be helpful.
Sure.
And I think continuing to just check in on test and stay, because if we get to a point where we are sending kids out of school for 8+ days and there's no other feasible option, and we are seeing those quarantine numbers continue to creep up, then I think we have to at least have a discussion, an agenda item specific to that, rather than just have it come out organically from our conversation.
Okay.
All right, so there was quite, thank you, Kelly. I don't think you have
You're
to stay.
welcome.
Thank you.
Hey, Kelly.
Thank you
Take
for
care.
your night.
Good night.
So there have been some folks messaging us. We had some technical difficulties at the onset of the meeting. And there are some folks who didn't have the opportunity to raise their hand. So we will give them the opportunity to speak now. Just as a reminder, if you can raise your hand, we'll let you into the meeting. But this is an opportunity for you to speak directly to us. It's not a question and answer segment. So we will keep us to our 3 minutes. And it looks like,
So I have JR
yes.
first.
Hello? I don't know your name.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, can you?
Oh, there I am. Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. I had problems at the beginning. Thank you for giving me a chance to speak.
No problem.
My name is Justin.
Perfect.
My name is
Thank you.
Justin. My name is Justin McCarthy. I live at 84 Porter Road, and I want to speak about Commissioner Riley's letter to school leaders dated October 28th of last month. It's concerning vaccination of children between 5 and 11. So the letter states we are writing to strongly encourage schools to take an active role in promoting and administering COVID-19 vaccinations for children 5 to 11. So generally speaking, I am opposed to this. I don't think it is the role of DESE or the school committee or the schools to promote and administer any sort of medical treatment whatsoever. It's just not what you guys are trained to do and what you're put in place to do. So I hope you don't follow any of the letter, but particularly there's two things. First of all, Mr. Riley suggests on-site vaccination clinics once children ages 5 to 11 are eligible. The push for this vaccine has been so aggressive and so over the top that I feel really uncomfortable with the idea of a vaccine clinic at my daughter's school. So I hope you don't do this. If you do, let parents know well in advance. And I realize that they need our consent to vaccinate our children, but still, I'd still be uncomfortable about it. And if you choose to do it, I hope you do it on the weekend so that the kids don't need to be around it if their parents don't want them around it. And another thing I'd like to just point out, DESE suggests working with athletic departments to further encourage COVID-19 vaccination among students and parents. So I think this is a sort of a polite bureaucratic way of saying unvaccinated kids should be banned from school sports. I think that's a terrible thing to do to kids. Sports are a big part of going to school. And they've been doing this in Eastern Mass. And I'm a lawyer here in town. And I've had at least 5 or 6 emails from parents on the other side of the state looking to litigate this issue. So it's extremely contentious. And if you choose to do it, if you ban unvaccinated kids from sports, there's going to be most likely a backlash from the parents. So that's all I have to say. Thank you for amending the agenda and letting me speak tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience and sorry about the technical difficulties.
Sorry.
That's okay. Was there anyone else in the audience that was wishing to speak at the onset of the meeting? Just raise your hand. Going once, twice.
So, yeah.
Yes, one more person. Lynn? Hi, Lynn. You are muted. If you wouldn't mind unmuting.
I'm sorry about that. My name is Lynn Vanderleed and I'm at 34 Thompson Street in East Longmeadow. And I just wanted to kind of parlay off of what Attorney McCarthy said. And I'm in complete agreement with his views on not having the clinics in school. And if they do decide to put them in school, to put them in hours that are not subject to the children seeing and knowing what's going on. I'm a firm believer in freedom of choice and having the parents be the ones to make the decision on what's best for their children. And I don't really weigh in on what school boards or different authorities would say they would want for my child. So with that being said, I have done some extensive research on the VAERS website, which is a vaccine adverse reaction site. And I've done research in some of the FDA meetings and listened in on a lot of the people that weigh in that are experts. And going forward, I would just like the the board here to know my views, that I am against any type of mandate, and I believe that I should be able to choose what's best for my child. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Lynn. Thanks for your patience. All right, is there anyone else in the audience who would like to raise their hands? Last call for comments. Okay. Thank you, Don, for helping us with that. And again, apologies that the link was not working properly at the onset. So we will move forward with 5.1.2, which is an update about the high school project.
Okay, so just to bring people back through the history so far of our journey through the MSBA process, we are at the stage where we're moving into a feasibility study. And the first thing that our building committee that was formed at the end of the last school year has to do is put out a request for services to hire a firm to be our owner project manager and help us maneuver through that feasibility study, which eventually would provide a look at, how would either a comprehensive project at ELHS, such as a new building, solve the challenges of this building? How might a comprehensive renovation of this building solve those challenges? And they even look at how might an addition or a reno and an addition solve those issues. That's what's all going to be in the feasibility study. So we are in the process right now of, we've advertised, we put out a request for services that was approved by our building committee. In that request for services, we had 34 firms request that document. And then we had 8 firms by the deadline actually provide proposals. And so just in alphabetical order, the firms that actually provided proposals were Answer Advisory, Arcadis, Atlantic Construction and Management, Inc., Collier's Project Leaders, Left Field, NV5, P3 Project Planning Professionals, and Skanska USA Building Incorporated. And now we have a subcommittee that was authorized by the larger building committee to work through the process and evaluate the proposals, which all was outlined in the request for services that these firms pulled, narrow down to a group of 3, conduct interviews, and then start to actually negotiate with the top firm, or depending on how those negotiations go, the top 2 firms and so forth. And so we're in that process right now. We are nearing the end of our part of that process. We will have to submit a pretty comprehensive presentation and packet to the Mass School Building Authority on Wednesday, going through and outlining how we have conducted this process and narrowed down. And then ultimately, over the next month, the Mass School Building Authority will provide us the opportunity to meet with them, and I think it's December 4th, and review everything once again and confirm, hopefully, our choice that we hope to have be finalized on Wednesday, at least our part.
It's exciting news to hear the process continuing to move forward, and to hear the hard and extensive work
Right.
that committee is really undertaking, because it is quite a process.
It
And
is a
it's the
process.
beginning of a very
long
long
journey.
process. So appreciate all the efforts of that committee and their willingness to continue to work on behalf of the high school and the MSBA. Any other questions or?
No, it was just nice that you got some really good, solid companies that came
Very
in
good
and
firms.
applied.
Very
and
good firms.
Lots of experience with the MSBA,
Correct.
so.
And that was, and a lot of them had experience with local projects in Western Massachusetts, which was really nice to see.
All right, look forward to that next update. Great. So Pam, our fourth quarter report.
Yeah, so In your packet is the FY21 final financial report as of June 30th, 2021. As I say to you every year, I apologize that it seems so late because here we are November 1st. But just so that you all know the process, the town has to go through a closing process with the general ledger, and that didn't close until the beginning of September. And then through the month of September, I'm working on the end of year report, which brings me to the middle of October. Then our last meeting was canceled, and now here we are November 1st. So I just would like to thank you for your patience with that. And as always, I always do a narrative for you, which I'm assuming you all have read, and most of it is very similar to what I say throughout the year, except I have given like closing balances for you. So if you turn to page 6, where I've got all of the accounts, the operational budget, you will see that the top half of the spreadsheet are the salary expense lines for the operational budget. If you make your way down the available balances, you're going to see some are positive and some are negative. As I've said throughout the last year and a half, there has been nothing normal about our spending trends, or so nothing is the way it normally is here. But what I will say is the bottom line there on the salary side that you'll see in the middle there is we did have a remaining balance of $308,883 on the salary side. Does anyone have any specific questions on the salary side?
That seems unique to be that high.
Yeah.
Well, it is because we had grant funding, so that helped offset
Yep.
behind the scenes, as it did every other district, every town. So although there's been a lot of negative things about the pandemic, some positives are we have had grant funding, and that has been able to help with the different line items, which you'll see there. I mean, in the teacher line, that's much higher than it's ever been for a myriad of reasons. And again, that's positive though.
Right.
Which is great. So the bottom half of the spreadsheet is the expense side of the budget. And again, you're going to see very similar. Some are positive, some are negative. The largest positive balance is the contracted services. I think we talked about that earlier in the year, that I think we had all anticipated that we would have available funds remaining in that line item. So again, as you make your way down on the expense side, you'll see we have a remaining $153,792 on the expense side. So the bottom line there at the bottom of the page, I just want to remind folks that our budget is $31,594,089 last year. Of that, we expended $30,736,700. We encumbered $394,715. That rolls into FY22 to be paid during the year, but it's allocated from last year's budget. The remainder was $462,674. I do want to remind everyone and folks out there that might be listening that back on May 24th, the school committee had made a commitment to return at least $400,000 to the town at the end of the fiscal year. That was, partnering. We all know that there's been some challenges throughout the district, so we certainly wanted to partner with them, and therefore we were actually able to return, in addition to the $400,000, an additional $62,674 to the town's general fund from our operating budget. So that certainly helps the town significantly, and I'm very pleased with that outcome. Does anyone have any questions on the operational budget?
I think certainly worth reiterating the fact that this is a unique year. And
Yes.
we would not expect that sort of turn back
That's
based
right.
on our budget process. And certainly in my experience has been certainly higher than that. So just want to reiterate that.
Yes, thank you. That's a very valid point. But also with the fact that we did the school committee made that commitment, and we did stand to it and return $462,000. So, okay, if you turn to page 7, you're going to see your grants and revolving accounts. Just want to remind folks out there that, without all of this support, we would be asking for a lot more from the town. So we're very lucky to have had the grants and the revolving accounts. The top section of the spreadsheet are the grants, and you're going to see we did roll over last year some FY20 grants. All of those have been expended. There was just a few with small balances. What doesn't typically happen is we usually expend all of our grants. We get the grants, we expend them. I don't usually roll over, but again, there's been nothing normal about the last few years. So You will see that we had quite a few FY21 grants that rolled into FY22. Some of those have already been expended by this point, and you'll see that at our next meeting when I do the first quarter in FY22. But I always like to, of course, show you how the year actually ended. You'll see that we had ESSER 2 there at the very bottom of the grant list there. And there's a significant amount there because we didn't actually get that. We didn't start expending it until in the spring. So, you know, we had expended like $288,000 and rolled over 626. And again, these funds are to help us with those challenges that we don't even know what's going to be down the road. So again, very grateful that we have those to help us get through this. The next section are your state grants, and you're going to see that those came in and those have all been expended. Private grants are on the bottom. Again, some of these were rolled into FY22, and at this point, some have been already expended or they're working on them. I always give that reminder to folks that they've got these funds, whoever's in charge of them, and kind of partner together to make sure that the funds get expended. Does anyone have any questions on any of the grants?
How much longer do we have for ESSER 2 to use that?
So ESSER 2 ends on September 30th, 2023. So it's, yes.
So the full school year next year.
That's correct. And then we have, just as a reminder, it's not on here yet. I'm hoping to hear any day now. There is an additional grant that the application, I think, was due October 4th, 7th, something around there. The ESSER 3 grant. And they all have a date that you have to put the application in. We may not need those funds right now, but those grants go through 2024. So again, they're really asking districts, school committees to think about these funds and really use them very wisely so that we can strategize and be able to handle, any of those unforeseen circumstances that come up with this pandemic. I mean,
Well, so
of
when
us.
do we start that discussion on specifically, because it's a sizable.
It is a sizable. So maybe Mr. Smith, you could elaborate a little bit about what we did with the
Yeah, it's one of the
application.
big things that we need to look at, and we are looking at, is getting more high quality curriculum into our schools. And so at the elementary level, we're looking at literacy first and working actually with DESE on looking at all of our curriculum and how we go about teaching early literacy and teaching reading and so forth. And we're going to continue that work also into math. And these are some of the discussions actually Mrs. Trulio has been involved in with Mrs. Brown. And it's that kind of analysis that really they want you to do, and then use your ESSER funds to put yourselves in a good position down the road.
There was a survey also, right? That was part of it that Mrs. Brown.
The summer academies, that was something that I think both parents want to see continued, and I think our educators and our administrators want to see continued. So that's something that ESSER funds will cover. The other piece to that is, as we're doing all this, we have to realize that eventually this is if we're gonna continue and sustain these practices, we got to put this money into the operational budget. So as we start to build budgets for FY23, we have to start thinking about that.
Well,
And then start thinking about
that's dangerous though.
Well, I'm talking about like summer academies and things.
Yeah, I understand that.
The
Okay.
software, those are more one-time purchases. Well, not the software, the curriculum. The software may be ongoing. And there you would have to start to look at and say, okay, if we're going to go in this direction with a certain amount of software, is there software we're no longer using?
Right.
And I think that's the balance we have to take.
Correct.
Because my interpretation of the ESSER is that it's a shot in the arm, excuse the pun, but it's for a one time,
Right.
not only to get us through, but to make education better.
Right.
So if we
That's
as
right.
East Long Meadow Education can use it for things like you said, as a one-time deal versus.
Well, it's also things like getting up and running our PSAT program at the high school. So that's getting up and running.
Good.
But we will have to, if we want to sustain that, where you're saying we're going to do this for 9th, 10th, 11th graders, that's something that you're going to have to budget for eventually. So,
It's fine, but we all know how the budget process works, and there's only so much, the pot's only so
Right.
big. So
Right.
without overextending ourselves so that we can't fund, I know you know that already, but.
it's a tricky balance.
I know it is, and that's, I just want to get ahead of ourselves. I like that we have the opportunity now
Right.
to improve education here in East
But
Long
you're
Meadow.
right. As you do that, we have to say, okay, where else then, other things we're not doing.
Right, well, long-term
That
costs,
can
if we
come
can
off.
reallocate, yes,
Right,
yeah.
We reallocate, but.
So
those
like
are
all,
being a budget discussion.
I was just
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
add
yeah.
that, like all grant applications, you put in what the plan is. These are ESSER funds because of the pandemic. So again, there's still some unforeseen,
Sure.
things that could happen. So we may need to, what's that word, pivot and go in a different direction and put an amendment in, but
But I think some of the things that Heather has done in terms of partnering with the state
exactly.
around acceleration, particular to some of the grants that she's gotten for the piloting of programs.
Right.
If those funds are being held and determinations are being made as to which high quality curriculum we may choose to go with, then those purchases might actually start a year or two from now, but we will have secured the funds to possibly fund maybe a 6-year contract.
Right.
So being able to use those other partnerships or those other opportunities through DESE to follow the science of reading or to look at some of the math programs that are being offered up on a trial basis, whereas the state is covering that cost, then
Right.
being able to forward plan and purchase a 6-year or a 5-year contract with a
Exactly.
vendor.
You just need a plan to follow
Yes.
through all the way with the
Right.
initiatives
Sure.
and to not hit a cliff on the funding.
Right.
Right, and
Right.
we're very aware of that, and
Yeah.
I think to Ms. Trudeau's point, Ms. Brown has gone out and gone after some competitive grants. Say, the ESSER can also be used to continue to support some of the equity and diversification work that we're doing. But we've also gone out and gotten competitive grants and
Yeah.
are utilizing those funds to train and do certain things as we continue to move forward with that work. Because we don't want to stop. We presented the equity report last year, and there were recommendations in there that we want to continue to move forward on.
Right. Cool. Circuit breaker.
Yep, so that's on the bottom.
This year,
Right.
we use more circuit breaker than we did this year.
Right,
correct?
so I was just gonna go into the
Okay.
revolving accounts. So on the bottom section are your revolving accounts, and, if you look at those, again, I'm gonna say we were very lucky. That was the good side of the pandemic and these grant fundings, that it enabled us to be able to roll over some nice positive balances in those revolving accounts. The athletic revolving account, the athletic stadium rental. I do want to remind you all that $34,320 balance for the athletic stadium rental, 28,000 of that has been allocated. You guys had committed that money, and that has not been expended yet from that line item, okay?
Scheduled hopefully for late June this year.
Right,
Oh,
because
is that plan? Okay, good.
that ran into,
The rain.
Season.
yeah,
The rain.
the weather. School rental accounts, in the miscellaneous accounts, that's collectively, all of the accounts, that's 109,000. The student mobile technology insurance, we
Yeah.
talked about that, that's self-funded.
How's that going?
Well, it's going well. We talked about it being a bit, as I called it, top-heavy last year, because knowing that the students and families are putting the money up front, it's because things aren't going wrong because they're brand new computers. So what we're going to see is over the next year or two.
Okay.
So we feel that's a nice, healthy balance there, and is handling that. But we did talk about the fact that we might come back and revisit that, because we certainly don't want to charge families
Focus.
unnecessarily. So
Column 2 is twice as much as column 3.
say that again?
FY22 receipts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
But you're saying as they get older.
Well,
that
yes,
makes
that's
it. So I
exactly.
think it's worth the time.
Yep.
Look, yes.
And so it's been working out really well. I mean, I hope, families out there have been very pleased with the system. And if they haven't, please let us know so that we can work on that, because we do partner with IT, and we feel like it's been a very successful program. The line item underneath that is the staff mobile technology repairs. I just want to remind you that actually those funds are LEA, the Unit A, puts that money up from their association for the staff, but we maintain the control of the account. So I just got one today that a teacher, something happened to her screen, so they have to repair it. So how that works is Ryan, IT director, reaches out to me to say, this is what's happened. Can you get me a purchase order? So I do the purchase order. So, I'm controlling that account. And again, that's, got $5,000 sitting there. So it's been a very successful program as well. And I believe, Unit A is very happy with that also. The school gift account, you'll see we have $66,000 that rolled over. I just want to remind you that line item does include eLeaf. which was $33,000 last year. Thank you, Ely. We're always very grateful for that. But that is part of the school gift account.
That's
So
in the current balance?
that was as of June 30th. So I just want to remind you that this was June
That's
30th.
gone then.
That's correct.
Yep.
So yes, they certainly work on those grants, some of them over the summer and some in the fall, but those funds, I believe, came in late in the spring as well. So that's why it's referenced here, but it really didn't get expended yet at this point. The tuition revolving line, really the only revenue that came in there was the special ed. We have a special ed program that an out-of-district student, the district pays a fee to come here to our program. This current year, FY22, is the last year of this program, but that enabled us to roll over that $136,000, which helps. We did pay for part of a paraprofessional or a paraprofessional last year from those funds. Circuit breaker. So we can legally roll over one full year circuit breaker into the next fiscal year, which is really great because it is very wise for a district to try to do that. We've seen what can happen in special ed. We do not want to have to go back to town council again. That was just a storm that just kind of brewed and happened. And we don't want that to happen again. So I'm very pleased to say, we have those funds that were able to be rolled over, and working with Dr. Welch to make sure that we get the students what they need in the special education.
But the year-to-date expended, that number is probably a little low this year because of COVID.
That's exactly it, because the operational budget could pay for more things than it typically does because of other, those goes back to the transfers that the school committee approves at year end. Yep. Makes sense. Okay. Transportation revolving. The revenue that you see in there is just for this current year's transportation because obviously we had to put that out in May and June to try to get those funds in. We tried to do things a little different this year, sooner than prior years. And again, I want to thank folks out there. I know transportation has been a bit challenging, but I am hearing positive things. School buses are getting there on time now, and we're hoping that things are moving in a more positive manner. And of course, I just want to remind folks that we are still short on drivers, as we are paraprofessionals and substitutes and food service. So again, thank you for your patience with that. Some of these funds, I do want to say I'm having the central office staff evaluate for the transportation revolving, because some folks might have paid when they shouldn't have paid because they were free reduced and they were just anxious to get it. And a lot has happened over this last year and a half. Some folks that didn't qualify before now do. So we're evaluating that. So you might see that revenue come down. I'm still evaluating all of that for FY22, but I'll keep you posted on that. School lunch. I just want to remind everybody, school lunch is free. So if anyone's interested, please buy school lunch. The district does get $3.63 for the reimbursement rate for each free meal.
Is that the 684?
Say that again?
That's the 684, the 363. That's from the federal government?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Normally that would be paying point of sale.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly.
Okay.
So we don't have any of that revenue coming in.
Which is why it's lower than expected.
Yes, and
So we're actually losing money on the program?
well, so Mr. Thompson, yes. It sounds, 363 sounds, fair for it to come in, but there's been procurement has been crazy. Lori Paul, our food service director, has been working diligently, as all food service directors across the state. I let you folks know that there was some concern about shortage of food. School departments use a large consumption each day. And so Lori's having to make last minute decisions. So again, folks out there, if you're seeing changes happening last minute, she's doing the best she can and really trying to work with her vendors. She may be expecting a delivery on Wednesday and she gets a call on Monday, it's not coming, and it may not come till next Wednesday. Like that's a reality check. So when it came to this year, no, that revenue that's coming in doesn't really cover it. I do believe that the federal government and the school nutrition services are looking at all of this and they're recognizing that this has been a real challenge for food service, for a lot of different reasons. She's short-staffed, she's short food, the paper goods. I mean,
Are we doing more lunches than we normally would do in a
No.
year?
no. And so I'm not exactly sure
That's
why.
surprising.
That is
My kids get lunch and
surprising.
they never have gotten lunch.
I know. So we're hoping folks out there will, encourage their children to maybe try a lunch that they hadn't before. It's a personal decision
You want to
and
make a sales pitch? What do you like in lunch? What's
I don't get hot lunch. I think the only two hot lunches I get are mozzarella sticks and like pasta.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, like at the high school, I mean, since it's really hard to do stuff now because of all the shortages, like we don't have like the pasta bar like we normally do, or like salad
Right.
bars or things they normally offer. So I mean, that's probably why.
Mm.
But I mean, like everyone in my lunch table gets hot lunch. Like I'm like the only one who doesn't.
well, I'm glad to hear that the bulk do. So I just want to remind folks that it is free and that, yes, the operational budget had to supplement the food service this year and last year, as most districts across the state
right.
of Massachusetts. So absolutely.
It's unique. It's unique.
It is very, very unique. We typically have,
It's one less thing for families to worry
Hey, I
about.
look at my kid every morning, I'm like, would you please get lunch today? You want me to make it? No, go buy it.
we typically roll over
She'll make her lunch. All right.
double that balance. But
Yeah.
again, this is way better than it was last year. So again, by a little bit of help, I
Trending in the right direction.
confident that we're moving in the right direction. Yes.
I look at this reimbursement rate, and I mean, I know it was a few years ago, but I remember we had a discussion, we had to
Oh, yeah.
increase our rate because of this.
Because of
It's
this.
quite a bit more
Yes, it
than
is.
what it was even back then.
And
But
again,
I
the
know it doesn't
paper,
cover the cost.
I just went to breakfast, my husband and I yesterday morning, and there's a little note on the table, this cute little restaurant, and they said, "I'm sorry, we can't give you any containers for your leftovers."
Yeah.
Because we
wow.
can't get the
Better now.
paper goods. And I chuckled because it's so true. I mean, I know because Lori's in that same procurement industry trying to get those same goods and they're just
Everybody
not
has the
there.
same
We had
source.
talked about getting away from paper goods. Are we using them because of COVID or are we using them because we got rid of the trays?
I think it's COVID,
Yeah.
but I'm not totally positive on that. And I just want to remind folks that Lori Paul said she'd be more than happy to come in to have that discussion with you if you'd like to get her
Well,
on
I
the
think in
agenda.
terms of just
To just,
waste that we produce, one-time use,
Mhm.
sounds like an awful lot.
Mhm.
Maybe we should look to. go
I
back
do
to
think
the
it has to do with COVID, but I
Okay,
will
fair.
double check
That's
that.
fair. Yep.
I think COVID changed a lot of things.
Okay. Well, we got rid of trays though, too, didn't we?
But
Yeah.
some of the washing machines, the dishwashers were having issues too, I thought. Is that part of the reason?
I don't know. I
There's
just
paper
holistically,
trays, too.
the
Well,
idea
sure.
of paper.
Yes.
is
No,
just-
and she's really
Last
on
year
top.
was far more packaging,
Okay.
but we would probably look at what's going on this year. I don't know
It's less
specifically
though.
in terms.
Right.
I hope it's less, but it may not be. And so that'd be worth getting Mrs. Paul in here to just,
Just because of the long
Yeah,
termness
no,
of
I-
this.
So people-
we can-
And I'm sure she'd
understand.
agree.
Because we did have a push 2 years ago, I think, or now 3. Geez, COVID's handled 2 years anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Where we wanted to go back to the trays, the reusable trays.
Right.
And I think in most schools we were there, but we did need to make sure that we had the dishwashing capability and that we were messaging it correctly, because I think we were having a lot of our secondary folks throwing away our reusable
That's right.
trays.
Yeah.
And so we just had to get back into the practice
Yeah.
of making sure we're not throwing it away, just throwing the items away that are on it, and then
I think there's some value in revisiting that.
and that was our environmental.
Yeah.
I think at the high school.
We'll check with Lori
It
and
had
see if
brought
she'd
the whole
like to
idea
come in,
back
maybe give it up to
Yeah.
us. Okay.
Even if it requires a capital investment for
Yeah.
dishwashers.
Sure.
And I will say, now that you said capital investment, it made me think that she just gave me some paperwork. There's a grant coming out for kitchen equipment. So I think we're gonna, collaborate together and try to get that in, because she does have something that I just can't think of what it is, something that's about $17,000. So we're gonna see what we can do there. But the very last account on the revolving account list there is school choice. I just want to remind folks that last year, FY21, school committee had voted 15 slots. So that's the revenue that you see on that line item, which we were able to carry over into this fiscal year. So that's your financial report.
We had talked about additional costs, potential additional costs for school choice. Are we, I don't want to track individual students, but
There is additional revenue if someone is on an IEP.
Right, which
That
I
has
can see
special
that here.
education
Right.
services, that's all
So
tied.
But we were
actually
concerned
not-
that it might cost us more than actually we bring in.
Right.
We're still comfortable that it's not. It's a net positive.
Right. Well, I mean, the tracking actually is coming through a student ID number, so
Yep.
you're not getting into
Right.
names and so
Yeah, yeah.
forth. So the department knows certain services because we would report services through the ID number.
Which changes the total
That's
dollar
correct,
amount. Okay,
yeah.
so it
But
works
what
out.
this isn't showing them necessarily is the services that maybe some of these students are getting pushed into.
Mhm.
But they
And
already
taking
exist,
a
though.
spot, like for instance, the Title I reading spot.
Mhm.
Okay. I happen to know that where I am, there's students that are school choice that are in Title I reading spots. And when there's only 5 spots, I got problems with that.
Sure.
I do. And I, historically I have, and I wasn't here the year you guys voted that in. We can't, it's not fair to take spots away from students to give to other students who deserve them too.
Mhm.
But we've allowed them to come in, and even though we might be getting monies to pay for some of these other things,
You're talking about a different district.
well, I'm talking about for us too. I mean,
Right.
like,
I think that's.
we gotta really take a hard look at that.
Yeah, absolutely.
like I want a
Um,
hard look at that.
I think that's why when the principals are looking, for the most part, the recommendation has been at the secondary level,
Mhm.
6th and 9th.
Right.
Well,
So
they're
that
following
we're,
trends. in
so that we're
enrollment.
not doing that. But we're also looking at what are our enrollment figures in those grade levels.
I'm just saying
no, I mean,
spots
these are-
on
these are all
sports
valid
teams, if they're
points.
cutting,
Correct.
spots on different things. I'm just saying we have to be fair.
And you're right, because it's a straight up lottery. Once you advertise for the slots that are approved, we can't look at records.
Right.
All we have are the names and, the district they're coming from. And then it's a straight up lottery for those slots.
Yeah.
So I just thought I'd throw it in because I couldn't last time.
No.
Wasn't here.
Well, and every year the school committee has to vote on that,
No, I
right?
know
For the
that, I know.
Yeah,
I'm
so,
highly aware.
Yeah.
And I'm there now.
Okay,
Thanks,
that's
Pam.
good, Pam. Thank you.
you're welcome.
We need to vote.
Motion.
Yep.
Yeah.
Move to accept the, are we gonna do it, Bill? I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
The FY 2021 fourth quarter financial report as presented.
Motion made by Greg,
Second.
second by Antonella. Any further discussion? Thank you, Pam. All
Thank
those
you.
in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And that motion carries 5-0. Thanks again, Pam, for all that. All right, and now we're on to capital.
Okay. So this is the capital plan that you originally saw back on October 4th. We have been able to answer some of the questions that we raised back on the 4th. One of the largest questions was the Meadowbrook parking lot renovation or redesign, specifically around the lights. And so the lights now, we have a price quotation, and we did get the answer. So these are all perimeter lights. It wouldn't be a situation where you're digging up asphalt. However, with that said, it was somewhat tied in, what are we going to do with the renovation? And so you're seeing a pretty significant increase in that full redesign price, now going up to 1.9
Yeah, what
million.
was it, half of that last time?
And it was, and the reasoning was really twofold. One, it was an estimate coming from more of the experience and the work that our Department of Public Works does in, as they're paving and they're redoing certain things.
It's a square footage calculation.
Well, it's that, but it was also not putting asphalt down. The original price was using either gravel or milling, similar to what they did at the end. And so that had the price significantly lower. And here's the key.
That's not
Because-
sustainable in terms of
Correct.
safety.
So, and it wasn't so much that it's worked out here,
Well, yeah, this is.
but this is a little different.
Yeah.
And so when we put this out to Ty and Bond to look at, now you're getting into pervious versus impervious surfaces. And once you go to an impervious surface, now you have to do something with your drain basins and your drainage and your stormwater. And that significantly increased the price. With that said, Meadowbrook obviously would like to look at the lights as their number one, and that's more of a safety issue to make sure both parking lots are lit, are well lit. and safe at night. Number two, and maybe far down the road, given the price, would be looking at that redesign. And maybe we have to go back to the drawing board and figure out what does that redesign look like with asphalt, but not necessarily.
Because why, Gordon? They need more space? Is that the real issue?
Yes, they need more parking spaces. Yeah, that's
We
true.
can't just add additional parking?
You can, but
area?
where we're adding right now is we're starting to park on the asphalt behind the school where
Playground.
you start to encroach towards the playground. So that's one. We also have visitors parking on the grass, that's over on the right as you enter. That's still going to that's not really sustainable.
Yeah.
You're going to have to add asphalt there, which then takes a certain amount of process to go there.
They have huge issues when they try to do it something
But,
for the whole school.
like an open
Yes,
house
yes.
or
Yeah.
So I mean,
a show?
Park
Yeah.
If they do
everywhere.
a show, we put all the part, we changed how we do recess and we put everybody behind.
I don't see us ever funding a $1.9 million
No, I
renovation. So
agree.
can we look at potentially adding a parking lot there somewhere that's grass now? Not redesigning anything, just adding 50 spaces somewhere.
Yeah, because you're not.
We're never gonna get $2 million
Well, here's the other problem.
for a parking lot.
If
We're
you
never
kick
gonna
it,
get
if you kick it too far down the road, it's going to be a whole lot more than 1.9 million.
Right.
And that's the
I
other
mean,
concern.
and certainly we can
How
look
is-
at that.
How is the asphalt now? Existing asphalt. It's not bad. I've been there.
It's not awful. No.
Yeah.
I
I don't know. It might get us,
I mean,
5 years, 10 years.
This is using the existing space.
yeah.
Moving the parking islands or traffic islands around and redistributing probably, I don't know if it's a great example, but if you look at the Long Meadow shops, how they redid, and that's pretty tight now.
That thing is terrible. It's too
Yeah.
tight.
Yeah.
We can't do that. No, that's
That's why I said it wasn't maybe the
that's
best
the
example.
worst designed parking lot I've ever been in.
Okay, so strike that example. I'm just trying to give you a visual.
Because I drive a truck, Gordon. I just doesn't do
Yeah.
that anymore.
No, and that's tough.
They
So
need-
you might have to go on the grass.
I mean, I can do it, but
They need to figure out a way to put the cars as they're pulling in to be able to park
Yeah.
at an angle along one side
So
of
that's
either
what,
side.
that's what this
And
was
maybe
starting
that
to
is
do.
a gravel
Yeah,
thing,
that's what
because
starting
it's
to
not
look at.
used all the time.
yeah, and then maybe that's our solution for now.
Like, as
Maybe
you're
we do
driving
the
out
millings on the
and-
one side
Yeah.
The tough part, yeah.
You know
because
what
we're
I'm
not
saying?
getting $2 million parking lot
No,
renovation.
and I
Not
understand
gonna
that. I'm not saying that we are.
Okay.
I think the challenge is here when people are parking that far out, they're wearing more athletic clothing and shoes, and so they're getting out. I think you have a rough surface out there that if you're wearing different shoes,
I don't know.
you
Gordon.
might have a safety issue.
I'm just if it's safe enough here, why is it not safe enough in Middlebrook?
I'm just saying when you have staff parking there, we
Yeah,
have
no, but-
staff parking out there. every
Yeah, but
day.
we're not
Stick
talking about
this one
staff,
out.
we're talking
this
the
one far
4
out.
times a year, we have an event at that school. And people are gonna know, if you're not
You're
there a
talking
half hour
overflow
early,
parking.
you're
Yeah.
parking on the gravel.
We
Wear
should.
boots.
I think it's just it's only realistic strategy to that because
Yeah.
1.9 million is
It's not
never going to happen. Ever, zero,
Yeah.
no
And I
chance.
would-
Just kind of find a way to make the cars park at
Is
an
it
angle
gonna
on the.
No, I don't think it's.
I mean,
gonna
No.
it's not.
I
We
mean,
just have to be
I-
realistic because we know when we go for capital, we get
Yeah.
$500,000.
So I mean, that's certainly why Meadowbrook is looking at number one, lights, and that.
I can
happen.
understand
And they're very aware that 1.9 million, that's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
Right.
I can
Well,
understand.
and look at the interior renovations. I think that's the office renovation. I think that's a appropriate
Expensive.
objective. Yeah, we should get there.
And I don't know if that, so we haven't adjusted when we put 5% on it, but we haven't, because it's out in FY24.
Yeah.
We don't know with the markets. I mean, that was a big discussion item as we were talking with
Updating these
OPMs,
prices.
you
Yep.
know, that
Right.
the market's crazy right now.
Crazy.
And we don't know when that's gonna start to stabilize.
So just to not to beat a dead horse, but all these $1 million+ projects,
Mhm.
I don't even know why we put them on here because I don't remember the last $1 million project
But we have to put them on.
we
there.
funded. Yeah, but we're
Well-
never going to do air conditioning
Well,
units
no,
on
I
the
mean,
top.
the last $1 million project we funded was, it's just under, is the
Fees-
Mountain View portable modulars.
Right.
And
So we
we-
increased the building size. Yeah.
Replaced Meadowbrook.
Yep. Fair. It's fair.
But I mean,
These projects just don't have the same impact that does.
No, I mean, when
And
you
then
add,
it's just
when you add
huge
4
dollar amounts.
classrooms that are stick built.
we're shooting ourselves in the foot by putting a $1.9 million on our request. It's never gonna happen. And so they look past and go, well,
I
I
think
can
they definitely
understand.
have to relook at it for,
Go ahead, Bill, you were trying to jump in.
No,
Sorry.
No, I can understand where they're coming from for the parking lot lights. That's a safety concern.
Right.
That's a number one priority. To everybody's point, that 1.9 million is never gonna happen. And I can see, let's figure it
So,
out.
I mean, this part of the task this evening
Is
is
to prioritize.
to prioritize.
Right.
yeah.
So
So you prioritize the $1.9 million project
we
off
prioritize
for right
At
now.
the bottom.
So,
and just to quickly go through, you have under each school, you have the first and second, and if there's a third, there's only in one case with the high school, a third. We've moved out the larger projects that really would be taken care of in any kind of comprehensive project at the high school.
Yeah.
So those are more keeping the high school going while we're in this process. And, your big items that you do need to think about are possibly, the roof replacement, although it's number 2 at Maple Shade. And we're not currently experiencing
How old's that roof?
leaks and that kind of thing. I don't know exactly offhand. I want to say that it's out of warranty, so it's at least over 15, if not 20 years.
Okay.
Jumping to the high school, the roof replacement, did you ever find out if that'll hurt our chances? Or how it
No,
affects
it's not. It wouldn't hurt our chances per se, because they want you to keep the building maintained and inhabitable. Excuse me. So they want you to keep things going while you're in the MSBA process.
All right. Yeah.
it's
And that's
just so
challenging.
much money, Gordon. And I know it's, that as well as anybody, but we are continuing to fall behind on the amenities that we offer as a town, and these numbers are just staggering to think that
Right.
we're gonna get 20% of them over the next 5 years. So how do we do this? How do we get a new gym floor at Maple Shade, at Mountain View? I mean, these are worthwhile projects, and we're never gonna get to them.
Well,
I think so. Let's speak to the safety. That's always a high priority of the capital planning committee.
Yep.
When you talk about a new gym floor, all of our schools are used by the rec department as well, and so
For $71,000, big bang for your buck on that one. I agree with that.
right. So I mean, those are things that I think the community certainly would get behind. Obviously, roofs are roofs.
Yeah.
That's something that all buildings have to deal with eventually. Things such as classroom furniture. We've been steadily trying to get at that. I don't know, Mrs. Blair, if Esser is able to do anything with that.
Well,
It's not
I
directly
was just
related
going
to
to
the
chime in
pandemic.
to just say that, ESSER 3 especially has some different rules than the other
Right.
grants. It is a significant amount of money that we're getting, that
Mhm.
every district is getting, that towns are getting. So those are conversations I think during the budget process, we need to
Could
talk
be used
about
on
it during.
capital.
It can be used, I believe, on capital expenditures. Now, I don't know if our rules are the same as the town, so I don't want to speak out of turn,
right.
but I think that it's worth having a conversation, because there are different rules with this money.
But are we in such dire straits with what we have for the high school classroom furniture and cafeteria tables that
Well,
we're
you
not
might-
gonna make it to
Well,
like
I know,
a
'cause I
project?
feel like
Because
we want
that's gonna
both
come
of
with the
them.
project.
Well,
Wait a minute.
But though, Sarah,
So two
with
things.
your,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
no, you can go
I was
first.
gonna say two things. One, probably we're gonna need more furniture as we come inside, which, they were starting to look at back in August and September. But the second thing is, remember, a project, our time frame for actually having the building open is about 6 years.
No, I
And
get
so-
that.
So some of our tables are now getting to or past their life expectancy, but we're using them. And so we just need to renew them.
But
And I think you can improve education itself by improving the infrastructure of what we have in the existing building for those students that are coming through within the next 6 years,
now,
including furniture. I think it makes a difference in the educational quality of the students.
Go ahead, Bill, then I'll
Does-
comment.
Does this stuff travel? So
Yeah.
there's another positive. If we get it, we can move it over. It's not going to be in brand new condition.
Well, that's why it makes sense to get it.
That's why, and that's my point, because if we get it and you can move it to the new building, well, you're saving money down the road. So it's a capital investment.
I look at some of the rooms, and I'll use Miss Rivera's as an example, because she's got the new tables and chairs. I know some teachers don't mind as much, but she's really able to manipulate the room, and they're right. Have you been?
Yeah,
to her
I mean,
house?
I had her like last year, and of course, COVID would be in lines. But I know what she wants to do. She wants groups. She wants everyone talking. She wants like that real like Spanish experience. Like,
which is what's going to happen as we move on. I want the stuff to match. You know, I hate to have a brand new
Oh, right.
school and have it be a mishmash, but I do think that it does help in terms of
Now, kids today.
It does,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they're here now and they've got to be here, and I do. I mean, cafeteria tables, not so much, but I understand if they're breaking, we need them, but
Mhm.
the actual, I know some of the areas that have the club chairs and the things like that they were done, that those, assuming that they're being used by the students, I feel it gives you a sense of community, and like you can sit and
Perhaps it would be helpful if we kind of assess the situation to see, like, what if something were purchased for the high school that needs it right now, but in 5 years when the school hopefully is being built, and we maybe get new furniture so that it matches whatever the date, maybe those tables that are just 5 years old then could be shifted elsewhere in our district to be
Right.
Well,
utilized.
there are all
Do you know
those
what I mean?
options around the table, yeah.
Yeah, but I also remember when we toured the schools, how many desks and pieces of furniture were piled up,
Yeah,
and
no,
Yeah.
it's a valid
We had
point.
to-
Yes,
mobilize and move all of that and redistribute it. So if we have things,
store it.
do
Yeah.
we potentially have that now? Like, do we have some tables, or do we have additional furniture that could help us with the high school
For lunches,
for lunches, or even
we
common
actually
spaces we're not using?
exhausted what we used. They re-outfitted the art rooms, I believe, and I'm trying to think what they used in the small gym last year for lunches. Nick, do you remember what
Tables.
what kind of tables they used? They were
in-
individual tables.
they were like desks, weren't they? They were like.
Yeah.
Oh,
they were
okay,
desks.
yeah.
No,
So
they were
last
desks.
year at like the large,
They were just desks lined
Yeah,
up.
at least in the large
so
lunchroom,
we
it
used
was
desks
desks.
because we
Yeah.
moved them out of the classroom because we were thank you. We were in
That's
hybrid.
half, yeah.
And now they're back in the classrooms because we're no
That's right.
longer hybrid, we have everybody in. So they don't have the same desks to put in there.
But I think it matters, Sarah, the environment that students live in. And that's what we're
disagree
trying
with
to
that.
address in the classroom, to Beth's point.
Because I use
It
her
makes a
room as an
difference.
example, because she's in an old building,
Mhm.
but she gives a cohesiveness to it that makes you feel, and there's a lot of other teachers that do it too, the names aren't coming to
That
mind.
the furniture allows.
The furniture's allowing it for it to feel fresh, you know what I mean? And to feel like you're in a place you want to learn. And then there's some teachers who have classrooms that are like so just discombobulated, but the kids, I think, embrace that too, because it's the teacher's personality that goes behind it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
They
yeah.
do. They don't want anything to match on purpose.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's okay,
Yeah.
because if that's how they thrive as a teacher, you know.
Yep.
But yeah, if we need, cafeteria tables are hard sell though, because I'm hoping we get better cafeteria situation in 6 years.
Well, I think Gordon's saying though, we're gonna need some tables to get us there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we
We
can
might
always
need
reuse them
individual
elsewhere.
tables if we're gonna start to use the small gym again. You know, I can't speak for the high school administration, but if that's where they're going, they would probably have to individualize it.
Yeah, but
We're
I
not
mean,
gonna throw the regular cafeteria table in there.
Yeah.
I think-
You know, or if you did something like what they have in Birchland, that if we were done using them at the high school, they can go in and replace the tables and chairs that'll be over 20 years old then at that point.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Something like that.
Because
to
those
think about
are
it thoughtfully.
multi-use.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Cool.
I mean, it is a worthwhile investment, because at the end of whatever usefulness is here, we could figure it out going down the road.
Did anybody wanna take a,
Tell me about the Birchland Park ballasted flat roof repair. Where's that, the second floor?
yes. So that's actually been on the capital plan for a while.
Yeah.
And it's just reaching now, a little bit more urgency. And that's just basically redoing that part of the roof.
Is it leaking?
No, it's not leaking yet. but starting to.
So, yeah,
Is
so
it pulling away or is it a
I think
membrane?
it's gravel, isn't it? Or
It's
like
got,
it's
yeah,
stone?
it's got stone
Yeah.
on it.
But
yeah.
is it a membrane underneath?
There is.
There's a
under the
membrane underneath, yeah.
Is it starting to pull away? Do you know?
I mean, it's starting to age. It's past,
It's life expectancy.
that's why they put it on the capital plan a few years ago, and it's something that we have to address, just like any building as they start to age.
Right, is that an accurate number? 492?
That is, as accurate as you can get with roofing. I mean, we were told to add 50% if you're going to do it this spring. And that's not a 50%
happening.
increase,
No.
but
Okay. All right.
So can we do this through MSBA as a,
that's a good question. I don't know. That's not a full
and would they combine, like if you said, all right, we gotta fix Maple Shade, we've gotta fix
Accelerated
this.
repair?
Accelerated
Yeah,
repair.
sorry, that's what I
Yeah.
say, accelerated repair.
That'd be worth looking
Well,
into.
I guess it's worth looking into,
Yeah. Cause it's about 55%.
I don't know if they would combine
Yeah.
schools.
I don't know if
They
they-
like to build something that's
try. I
together.
think
like
you
a
You
can.
can do
K-8.
two separate ones.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can submit two separate ones, yeah.
Gordon, how about MSBA for the stadium, the bleachers and the restrooms? Is that something when we go for a high school that those would be included?
You can sure. There are different rules. I don't know them
Okay.
specifically for athletic
Yeah.
complex. There are some things I think that they do reimburse. There are other things that they do not.
Could we find out if either one?
Sure,
I don't know that there's a want to wait that long for them, but it would
Right.
just be good to know.
sure.
I mean, the bleachers, we need those. We don't need them desperately, but it's sad to look at the other side of the.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice to balance
It's
out.
been
the other
forever.
side.
Well,
Yeah, especially because we told visitors they had to go sit over there one game I was at, and they walk over in these 4
Yeah.
rows. It's so sad.
well, I mean, if
Yeah,
you're gonna do
yeah.
that and you try and finish the stadium off,
Yeah.
and do it all at once, so you're looking at almost $1 million
Yeah,
there.
right.
Or
Which would be
over.
good to have
Over.
MSBA support on it.
And I know it's.
I think there's other avenues, but I
Is there?
agree with
Yeah.
it.
Oh, fundraising and stuff. Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Are we trying to crack on an order here?
Yes, because I have
We
to
have
submit
two.
it to the town.
I think I've heard consensus around the parking lot
Parking lot
lights and the
yeah.
floor at Mountain View.
Yep.
The
I
gym
think that would
floor,
be 1 and 2.
in that order, safety then.
Okay.
Community.
How about the classroom furniture and cafeteria tables is number 3?
Did you want us to look into whether the ESSER funds can?
Yeah, but I think if we have to submit something, we can always pull it back.
Well, I think Gordon's got a point.
Is that taken away from curriculum? Is it from ESSER?
But I just want to add that I think the way it works, and again, we can do some quick research for you, but I think you have to, during the application process, put in those plans so that they have to pre-approve. I think
Oh.
it's anything over
And
$30,000.
we didn't do that.
No, we didn't do that.
And we can't still do it.
No, I'm not saying that
We
we
can
can. It
amend-
just
we're gonna
takes
look
some
if we can
time.
amend
There's
it.
always amendments that can
But
happen.
we could
I'm just
find out
saying,
if it's eligible, probably.
we could find
it's
out
worth
if it's
applying for.
eligible
But we have to submit this
right away,
right
yeah.
away. This has to
Yeah,
be
within the
submitted.
next 2 weeks, I have to submit.
So we have till the next meeting for them to,
I don't think we would have another meeting. I
Okay.
think they're trying to get, if I'm right, Mr. Mackey, capital into the town really first week in November. So, but I think I can probably submit it next
What-
week.
what do
but
we-
not
what-
2 weeks in.
okay.
Gordon, what about the high school roof, the freshman wing, sophomore wing? Are we hard pressed on that? That's
That one's.
really should do kind of
That
thing
was
at
their
this
top
point?
priority.
That's, if you were to ask the Department of Public Works, that's their top priority. It does leak, and it has leaked this year quite a bit.
Yeah.
So do we-
Yeah.
All right,
All of them.
do we put that as number 1 on our list and then put Meadowbrook parking lot lights as 2 and the gym floor 3?
Are we more apt to get it if it's something DPW really wants?
Well,
Because they know there's a need.
Because Bruce is the chair of the
Well, no,
Calvin Planning Committee, is that?
but no,
No, but
because
he's-
I'm
I mean,
saying,
he's
because
right.
they
It's-
feel
He's good. I'm
it's,
not saying-
yeah, because they feel it's pressing. I mean,
But-
my concern is ending up with moisture and mold.
yeah,
And that's 6 years of playing games with moisture and mold.
Okay, you sold me.
Do you want that as one?
I just think
So
it's
the
not
roof, the
happening.
freshman sophomore wing roof moves to 1,
Yeah.
parking lot lights at Meadowbrook moves to 2,
Yeah,
and Mountain View gym floor moves to 3.
What about drainage at Maple Shade, the parking lot?
lots of puddles.
Well, but it's the playground.
Yeah, but combined with playground paving, so
Yeah, it's both.
it's both.
It's adding additional drainage
Yeah,
because you have the melt coming down and so it just keeps refreezing.
That gym floor is linoleum, right? So it's probably asbestos actually.
This.
Can't be
probably asbestos.
It's not, it's probably not for 71,000 actually.
That's a wooden floor.
Wood, okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
all
we'll
right.
be putting in a wooden floor.
Wood to wood?
No, it's not wood to wood.
What's underneath it though?
That's, right now it's I don't know that they're asbestos tiles.
Oh, I don't
Do you happen
know.
to know that, Mrs. Blair?
I'm sorry, I'm texting Heather to try to find out about the ESSER funds. I apologize. Go ahead.
I don't.
Now, my question was one
Yeah, I don't
underneath it. My
believe-
question is
I don't-
wood now, it's going to be wood?
No, it's not wood.
No, it's not wood now. That's what I'm
It's
saying.
not wood.
That's why I'm thinking there might be something there.
But I'm
I don't-
thinking it's not asbestos at 71,000.
But that's the replace.
71,000 is the.
That's the whole cost. Or we're just going over the top?
I think that's what they were thinking, yes.
Then
It's
that
just
tells me
asbestos.
something.
There's no abatement.
I don't believe, not
There
in this,
can't be at
not in this,
71,000.
yeah, not
Right.
in this.
And if they're going over the top, you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah,
Right.
that's,
If you
Yeah.
open it.
that was my question, because I know it's not wood now.
Right.
Okay, sure.
So 1 is freshman, sophomore wing roof. 2, parking lot lights at Meadowbrook. 3, Mountain View gym floor. 4, Maple Shade parking lot.
Yep.
Yep.
Is that accurate?
yeah. I would already have on for next year the redoing of the tennis court. That's
Yeah.
crazy. Seem
I
like they're
know.
brand new,
Oh,
you know?
But we have to obviously plot these out.
I
and
understand,
then
but
they
it's-
keep,
I
you know,
mean,
and
to
then you
think
make
that
a
we're
decision
there.
whether you
Plotted
can
for a
live with
reason,
another
yeah.
year.
Do you have one in each school, Sarah? Is there only 4 though, right?
We don't
didn't
have one
touch
at
Birchland.
Birchland, but I don't think.
Well, I mean, then you
Or you wanna do the,
put the roof, the
No,
single story.
I don't want to do that. It's $500,000.
That we were gonna explore
We
That'll be
should
the-
explore
that'll be
the
the end
two
of the
roofs, yeah.
through
That's
accelerated
the
repair.
other thing, will,
you want me to take a look at that as accelerated repair?
That was what we had said we were
We
gonna
should have looked into
investigate.
that, yeah.
that one and the maple shade roof, maybe just ask them, you know.
Because neither one is currently leaking,
Right.
correct? Just
Well,
past
that's
life
what
expectancy.
I know you're
Not
not
gonna
gonna
ask
So they have
Right.
point 2, Gordon.
No, it's a, you know, a SOI of sorts. It's just a faster one.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
How do you feel about that list, Gordon?
I think it's a good list.
We should keep
If
going.
you're pulling out the 2 roofs, I'll find out what that looks like. I think it would be 2 different, basically statements of interest for the accelerated
Right.
repair
I mean,
program.
I don't think we need to have you do it like immediately. I'm just
Well,
asking
no,
them.
you have to get it within the window.
Yeah, but the
So-
window
So
is,
it opens and it closes.
Yeah,
closes
the
like
window
in
would be next
January,
year,
doesn't
wouldn't
it? It's pretty
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
quick.
it opens January and it closes like
February.
February, yeah, it's
Like,
quick.
it's very quick turnaround.
But I
just a
think if you put
reminder-
if you put these on there right now, I don't think we got a shot. I
You
mean,
know, I'm just giving the facts.
no, I know, no, I
I mean,
appreciate
can we
that.
wait until next year to put these in? I mean,
Well, I
how
mean,
desperate
it makes
for those
sense to
two
put them
things?
in because they do roofs. And,
Yeah.
maybe they'll.
They might bite on
We
it.
got a roof from Meadowbrook.
You did?
Meadowbrook's
Yeah, but that was a whole thing too.
Yeah.
We're looking at pieces here.
Yeah, I think it still applies, so it's got to. Otherwise, you would do the whole roof unnecessarily. I don't think they want to
That wouldn't
encourage
make
Well,
that.
they don't wanna do that.
They don't want to
Right.
do that.
Yeah, and we
Or
know
do
we're
what you
keeping
need.
the buildings forever, so
Well, once you do this, you keep them forever.
I know. Because what, it's maple shade and it's not,
If
And
we
it's
go to
virtually
that point, how long do we have to maintain the building if we go
Like
accelerated
20
repair?
years, I
20
think.
years.
Yeah.
Are we comfortable with 20 years on those buildings?
Definitely with Birchland.
Oh, definitely
I
Berkeley.
mean, if you look
Maple
at,
Shade is my
you look
question.
at your facility study,
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the
originally you were
facility
thinking about, depending on where enrollment goes and building cost, do you do something that combines Maple Shade and Mountain View?
That's my
Right.
question. So are we 20 years on Maple Shade?
probably,
Man, another 20 years on that building?
I know, but Birchland
You
we
know,
are.
that's a challenging question to answer. I don't have.
Yeah.
No, well, look how long it is for the high school board.
Right.
We're gonna be
Well,
20 years on that.
And if we
Yeah.
go
Well,
back
from
to
start,
our,
almost.
Right. Yeah.
the original plan that we had done when we had discussed, combining those
Our
two
kids will have their
schools
kids
was
in the school.
almost a bigger
Yeah.
priority than a
So,
high school.
so that's
It
a
was.
very
Yeah.
good point, though. Do you put it in accelerated repair if
I don't
you're
think we do
not,
for Maple Shade.
because you have to commit.
Yeah,
Birchland, I
right.
think you
Yeah.
can commit.
Birchland definitely. We're not
Yeah.
gonna replace that in this.
Yeah.
Then we'll have to just, if it's not leaking now, I mean, pray.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, I think you have to put it in your list.
No, yeah, so Sarah,
No,
we
I know
we
you
should
put it in the
continue
list.
on with
Yep,
the
so
20.
number 5.
Yep,
Will become Maple Shade.
no.
Birchland.
Birchland.
I thought we just said we were
No,
gonna
no,
go
Birchland
forward
can go
with
accelerated repair. 'cause you can
accelerated
come
repair
up-
for
Oh,
Birchland.
sorry.
You
Yeah,
commit for
no,
20 years.
classroom, high school classroom furniture.
That would be 5, and then go 6 with the roof.
The big number ones, we're gonna basically put
I
them
thought
on
we
there
were
so
holding
they.
on the furniture to explore ESSER. We're not doing that now?
All right.
We did say that, you're right.
Okay, I'm trying to take notes, but
Okay.
it's been a very lively conversation. It's numbered and everything.
Yeah.
It's an actual list. So then
Thank you for keeping us
number
on track.
5,
We should
becomes-
put in the high school repair, the skylights, because that's an easy one. Does that even meet capital? What's the threshold?
20,000.
20, yeah.
Can you do that over 2 years and just get it done?
Well, I mean, if you
It's
create
cheaper to do
if you
it.
create the account,
You're
what
right.
DPW does is they go up and they, take a certain amount, depending on how much time they have in the summer, and try to get it done.
You should sharpen
Over
their
as many
pencils and
years
get
as
that down to 1999.
Oh, yeah.
Plan.
Well, then it's under 20,000 and then
That's not
Then you still
capital.
Well, if it
gotta
goes
find.
under
Then you gotta fund it out
20,000,
of,
it's not
you gotta
capital.
fund it through the budget.
through the budget. Well, I
We're not getting
know.
another extra 20 grand in
Yeah,
the
I
budget.
guess we're
That'll
not.
never happen.
That's gone.
Building budget, I guess, has disappeared, so. All
So
right.
is Maple Shade roof.
What's left? Yeah.
We have the
5.
Maple Shade roof,
That's 5.
Yeah.
And the parking lot redesign on Meadowbrook?
and we also have the skylights at the high school.
Well, those I would go at 5.
Well, 5 is the Maple Shade roof, right?
I would
You change it.
my vote would be for the skylights first.
Yeah, let's do the
'Cause
skylights.
we're not gonna get the roof, but we
No.
might get the skylights.
Skylights at the high school. 6 then becomes the Maple Shade roof.
Yep.
And 7, we're gonna keep moving forward with this parking lot redesign at 1.9
Yeah.
million.
Put it down,
Just put it in there.
Because it's on our list and we're gonna have to talk about it, so we gotta prioritize it. And then that's it, right?
That's Well, then you put,
The classroom furniture, we're investigating.
ESSER.
But if not, I would put that as 5.
Can we put it in parentheses that we're investigating? I mean, they would think of that as a positive,
No.
Pam,
wouldn't
how'd you
they?
feel on that? We can do it in ESSER.
For the classrooms furniture? I think so. I would like to double, I mean,
Okay.
I did buy cafeteria
You did.
tables for
Yeah.
some of this, because they
I mean,
needed
I
more,
think
and
you
more
can
desks
do,
and more.
obviously cafeteria tables, I think we've already done.
Right,
And so if we need more now, obviously well, I shouldn't say that. The marketplace is a backlog on all kinds of
Yeah.
things.
no, you're not gonna
But-
get them.
But we're not competing right now against other school systems necessarily
Because
Right.
Demand
because
is,
they've done it. So that piece, the furniture piece in terms of classroom furniture, that, could that go hand in hand with some of the things that we were talking about in terms of, the accelerated learning roadmap and so forth? It might. I don't know. We have to look at that.
But I think we should put it on the list still, Sarah, so that we have a discussion, even if it's lower on the list. Have a discussion and say we recognize that we potentially can use ESSER funds for this, but it's still a capital investment, so we want it as part of the discussion. So I would put that as 8 or 9, whatever's left.
Well, we're down to, that would be 7.
that would be 8.
What's 7? Oh, I
7
got
is
it,
the
I'm sorry.
parking lot,
Yeah, okay, that'll be 8.
high school furniture, cafeteria tables.
And no district-wide stuff this year, huh?
No, we just bumped it out.
Okay.
Well, it's,
Keep
yeah.
it, keep us under 4 million.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, so number 1 right now is the freshman sophomore wing, the roof at the high school. Number 2 is the parking lot lights at Meadowbrook. Number 3 is the gym floor at Mountain View. 4 is Maple Shades parking lot. 5 is the skylights at the high school. 6, Maple Shade roof. 7, the redesign of the Meadowbrook parking lot. And 8 is the high school furniture and cafeteria tables, which we are thinking will be able to be covered by ESSER 3. And then the the Birchland Park roof, we're exploring accelerated repair.
That high school freshman sophomore wing, that's been actually pared down even more, right? That was larger at one point. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah.
Because we
I
made
feel
a
like
big
it
deal
was,
about
yeah.
not spending that much money on it, and now we're gonna have to spend that much money. But we pared it down as far as we can, and at this point, we believe we cannot wait any longer. Those are 2 correct statements?
Those are 2 correct
Okay.
statements, yes.
Because that question will come up.
Yeah.
Well, because it becomes a safety issue and a mold issue.
I mean, I
I mean,
think
some would
it,
happen in South Half, you know.
Well, yeah, we don't want to be so
you
happy.
may go with a similar type roofing material that originally was there, because that's a less expensive material and you're only looking for life expectancy, hopefully of 6 years.
Yeah. Good. Okay.
All right.
Well, that was
so we-
easy.
Yes.
Not anything.
We're not done?
No,
I think we have to vote.
we have to vote on it.
Oh,
Make it real easy.
what?
Move to approve the submitting the capital plan as prioritized and discussed.
Motion made by
Second
Bill, Second by Beth.
Yep.
Any further discussion? Okay,
Well, actually,
yes.
Go ahead.
You want to add an asterisk? Or
I.
all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
Opposed, nay. And that motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Young lady.
All right, now I believe, Bill, you are taking us through the MASC resolutions.
As quickly
Did
as
everyone get the
possible.
updated, longer copy? That was truncated
They're at your seats.
digital packet?
Yep.
Perfect. All right, Bill, take
right.
it away.
Get them through, get them fat, get them done as quick as possible. Resolution 1 is dedicated funding for school-based clinics and services. And what I'll do is I've done it in the past. I'm not going to read everything. I'll do it, therefore be it resolved type thing, because that's the crux of everything that's being discussed. On Resolution 1, therefore be it resolved that MASC supports proposals that would establish dedicated funding for school-based physical health and mental health clinics and services. The rationale is maintaining physical, social, and emotional wellness in students translates into establishing an optimal learning environment and sets students up for future excellent health standards, in addition to decreasing absences and school discipline referrals, reduction in Medicaid expenditures, reduced inappropriate emergency room use, decreased pregnancies, and increased overall physical and mental health.
Well, that's not a bad idea.
I think that's actually a resolution that's been on.
It has been,
Has
I really wasn't involved in the process, even while my name is there this year. I really wasn't involved in this, so I really don't have any kind of background like I used to, but this has been in some form of or shape has been around for a while, and it has never gotten the attention of the legislature. To review this, all of these will get approved. This will be debated at the delegate assembly this coming Saturday, and if they're approved, they get forwarded to the legislature. And if they take them, they take them. If not, we get to revisit it again another year. So, I mean, what you're doing tonight is giving me the power of how to vote on these things.
Yep.
So, I mean, we can vote on them individually or do it all at the end. It really doesn't matter. It's up to,
Why don't we go one by one?
go ahead. Any questions on this one?
Questions? Okay. Entertain a motion.
Okay, I move to, now how do they vote yes?
Yep.
Okay, I move to vote yes on resolution 1, dedicated funding for the school-based clinics and services.
Motion made by Beth,
Second.
second by Antonella. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. And that one carries forward 5-0.
Resolution 2 is homework gap and Wi-Fi internet access. Obviously, this became an issue for rural districts with remote learning last year, so MASC is kind of getting behind it. There was a push last year to get the legislature to look at it. There was a little bit of talk, but it never gained any traction, so they're trying to get it back on there. Be it resolved that MASC support federal initiatives and legislation to improve national high-speed broadband internet infrastructure, expansion of the FCC's E-rate program to include homes of K through 12 students, or any other steps to expand free access to reliable high-speed broadband to the students of our nation.
Okay,
So all students K through 12 would get free internet.
That's basically what they're saying. And this, again, this points to the rural districts that basically don't have internet at all. And they were scrambling. Both Charter and both Spectrum and Infinity last year provided free internet access to rural communities because of the remote learning issues last year.
Okay, so the FCC has a program that is the E-rate program, and they just want to add this onto it so that if they're asking
Yes.
that, we need to include the kids, which makes
Correct.
sense.
I don't know if it would reach all,
Yeah.
but it would have to be a certain definition, and they would provide reimbursement to our municipalities,
Yep.
companies to do that.
And that's not necessarily money that comes out of our pockets.
No.
It's a federal
It's a
kind
federal,
of.
it's
sort
a
of a-
federal contract.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll move to, and we can decide on how you guys feel. Move to vote yes on resolution 2, homework gap and Wi-Fi internet access.
motion made by Beth,
Second.
second by Antonella. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries 5-0.
Resolution,
Oh, hold on one second, Bill. Nick, we have 7 more of these, so.
I'm fine enough school tomorrow.
Okay, that's right.
I'm having fun at this
School.
meeting.
You should be doing
Yay.
it. Stay.
here, you want to read?
All right, Bill,
I'll keep it
Okay.
simple.
take us through resolution 3.
Resolution 3 is IDEA Fully Funding Act, all right? And this one's kind of a no-brainer. Therefore, be it resolved, the Mass Association of School Committees calls upon the Massachusetts Congressional Delegation to reintroduce and promote the passage of the IDEA Full Funding Act. Again, this was something that has been before the Delegate Assembly in the past in different forms. They don't fund it fully. They're, the percentages are varying. Districts need money.
All right, I move to vote yes on resolution 3, the ID funding, full funding act.
Motion made by Beth. Second by Antonella. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Or
Yes.
aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay.
Rich was walking through the door again.
And that motion carries 5-0.
Okay, resolution 4 is recess. Therefore, be it resolved that the Mass Association of School Committees support legislation, currently Bill S383H695, calling for at least 20 minutes of uninterrupted, supervised, safe, and unstructured free play recess per day, which cannot be excluded from structured learning time requirements and may not increase the total number of hours required in the school year for Massachusetts elementary school students.
A lovely thought, but where are they gonna fit it in?
Fit it in,
That's the
I know.
other problem.
I mean, they're gonna take it away from lunch, so they'll get a 15-minute lunch. to
That's
get the
exactly where it's
20-minute
gonna come
recess.
from. I'm not sure if this one will pass because of that point. How do you structure?
Well, yeah, we used to have it though. I mean,
But
You
that's
just have-
everything changed.
Digital literacy and computer science
They don't
standards, you
They don't
didn't have.
recess?
They do, but not 20 minutes.
No,
Well, is that why they're
Half an
saying
hour
this
lunch,
cannot be
I think,
excluded
so,
from structured?
20
correct.
learning?
Right.
You
So
can't.
they're saying
Oh.
don't exclude it from structured
Correct.
learning time.
Yeah.
So they're asking basically DESI to change its.
Yes,
Oh, to change the amount of hours on
Change
time on learning.
yes.
That lunch and recess aren't, well, in this case, recess is not taken out of your structured learning time.
But wouldn't they have to lower the amount of required structure?
That's
time?
where,
Yes.
that's where it's pointing. That's why I'm not
That's
sure
what
that
they're
this,
saying. Yeah.
I'm not
But
sure.
is recess as as valuable as structured learning time?
Yeah. I think-
That, and that's also what they're saying.
Well, that's the other thing. This one's gonna cause a lot of debate.
It is, but there's a lot of, to your point, Greg, it is, but there's a lot of standards now. And
There's a lot of standards.
different
Maybe
kinds
Yeah,
of
but there is
standards.
a lot of value in recess. There
There
is,
is,
some kids, this is the only opportunity that they go outside and socialize,
Fettered.
not like, here, do this, do this, do this. They're like, go.
No, I don't
You know?
disagree. It's just, it speaks to a broader concern around what a day in school looks like.
Yeah.
Okay,
Go
I'll
ahead.
vote, I move that we vote yes on resolution 4, recess.
Motion made by Beth,
Second.
second by Antonella. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. That motion carries 5-0.
I'm all about recess. Your masks are off.
They're better.
Oh, yeah.
Even if you do like 10 minutes here and then do another 10 minutes later, I just feel like they're just better.
Well, that they do, right? They go out twice now, Meadowbrook?
Maybe at Meadowbrook, but.
Maybe mask breaks or something.
And depends on the classroom.
Yeah. it
Yeah.
depends
Oh,
whether-
does it?
Yeah, the classroom, they may have opportunity to each classroom to take that option.
Yeah,
But if
the
not,
main recess is off of lunch.
it's a half an hour lunch, 20 minutes eat, 10 out, something like that.
Maybe if-
No, it's a little longer than that. I think
Yeah.
it's 20-minute lunch, and then maybe 15-minute recess.
and sometimes the teachers will have the kids like my guys, I'll be like, okay, I'll let them out the door, run around the playground 3 times and come on back in.
Yeah.
They get their masks off, they get some blood pumping and,
We do that here at central office.
yeah.
I've seen it.
You
I know,
should.
I've seen it.
It'll be fun.
We have a little exit door here. Outside.
Set off the alarms.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
All right, resolution 5, zero tolerance policies. Therefore, be it resolved that the Mass Association of School Committees call upon the legislature to enact and amend legislation, current bills S344, H664, to encourage the use of restorative, therapeutic, and educational approaches to students wherever possible over the use of zero tolerance policies in order to provide students the best chance to remain in the public school systems of the Commonwealth.
Don't we do that?
Some districts
We
do
are,
that.
I mean,
They don't.
we're starting
We do, but-
to, review all of our disciplinary, consequences, and we're trying to maneuver towards more of a therapeutic response and look at each situation or for its unique elements.
Right, which is good.
These two bills, both the Senate and the House, speak to structuring the zero tolerance policies. To your point, Gordon, districts are all over the place across the state how they handle this stuff.
Yeah. All right.
Well, shouldn't it depend on what happened?
It will, but they just got to get the structure in place and then you deal with the variables. Right now, there's it's just nilly-willy. It's just calling, because I did look at these two bills and it's just putting in place a process and a structure. Then you deal with all the variables. Because it did recognize what you're saying.
But how does that work either in complement to or in contrast of the current protocols or processes that are in place concerning like suspension? Because there's only 10 out of school day suspensions that are currently allowed by the state. Unless there's
weapons involved.
Right.
So how does this then fold?
I think it's talking to
that.
the lesser cases, the lesser.
I think there are still districts that have zero tolerance policies around weapons and drugs, and so they may not be looking at, you still may need a separation of sorts, but you also have other elements that you can add in there now. If you go back 10 years, if drugs were involved, you could expel.
Right.
And it was done, and that child was out there fending for himself or herself. And a lot of districts did. Thankfully, we're moving away from that so that the state's gotten involved in that piece too.
Right.
You can only go out about 45 days now. I believe 90 days is the max. But it's also looking at anything that you put together in terms of a consequence around some type of incident. You also want to look at that individual's situation and what the needs may be there, and look at a little bit of what drove the person to that event. And that takes, as we all know, it takes a lot more. It takes more time, and it takes more expertise,
Resources. Yep.
and resources. And that's the hope would be. That's what this funding does, is allow us to get the training and more of the resources and more of the understanding. Because in some cases you may be preaching to the choir, so to speak, but not everybody's understanding that's why we're acting in this way. That it's not just thank you for being a student here. You're now done. You're no longer the responsibility of the East Long Meadow Public Schools.
Yeah, you need to see the whole story.
Yeah.
Even from little ones all the way up.
And that's what this is.
So what was this? That's not the whole story. Yeah. I think
But it does become challenging around weapons and violence and so forth.
And I agree with that.
Yeah.
But if there's also a point, maybe of the student that is doing things repeatedly.
Right.
And
So it's
then
looking at
where does-
progressive discipline,
Then where does
obviously.
that go?
Right. And so you have to work through progressive discipline. You're right.
Now, this isn't stating they can get away with something
No.
as bad as that.
It's trying to
just
put
saying-
services in place to help them.
Okay.
Which I think, there's an element here that I think we lost at some point, where, we're a public school system, and so everything we do should be entrenched in education and growth of some sort. That doesn't mean, to the point that you're making, that you ever allow something to happen or limit your high level of expectation around safety.
Right.
What it means, though, is you may have to figure something else out for that individual to allow that individual to eventually get back into an opportunity to grow and
Be educated
hopefully
and-
become
Right.
Yeah.
someone who's building skill sets that can then contribute back responsibly to, and I don't mean to sound like, what's the term, Pollyanna, or
Well, no.
an idealist, but that's something I truly believed as a principal. Because that was back in the day when I was a principal, where I could have just said,
You're done.
you know, you're done, you're selling X in school, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's really challenging when you're sitting with, you know, a 15-year-old and say that, you know, I'm no longer working with you in any way.
I don't care enough
Around
about you to
education.
figure out what's happening
Right.
behind the scenes. It's
Yeah.
hard.
So I mean, so that's, yeah, I'm just trying to give you graphic examples of what zero tolerance can mean.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I move to vote yes on resolution 5, zero tolerance policies.
Motion made by Beth,
Second.
second by Greg. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. And that motion carries 5-0.
Resolution 6 is alternative to MCAS. Therefore, be it resolved that the Mass Association of School Committees call upon the legislature to establish a commission to research and analyze alternative means for students to demonstrate academic achievement, which can be used to satisfy graduation requirements for individual students and accountability standards for the Massachusetts public schools and school districts. There are 2 current bills that are listed below that have yet to be enacted upon.
So basically, they want to get rid of the MCAS to create another test that's called something else that will ultimately be frowned upon, like the MCAS. Is that how I'm reading this?
Yeah, and this again is just another wordsmith of an old resolution that has come up.
So this would just be for a certain,
Yeah,
it's
it's not a
alternatives, it
it's
wouldn't
a-
be for everyone.
It's, yeah,
Just the alternative, okay.
yeah, that's the key word, but
a
this,
better alternative.
Right.
Right.
right,
It's
but
Or
this,
currently-
a
they
more
limit it
appropriate.
In terms of the percentage,
So they can still graduate if they can't pass the MCAS,
Correct.
they can try something
they can
else.
try a different alternative.
All right.
Okay.
I move that we vote yes on resolution 6, alternative to MCAS.
Motion made by Beth,
Second.
second by Antonella. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And that motion carries 5-0.
Resolution 7 is school committees and receivership. Therefore, be it resolved that the MASC support local initiatives and legislation to restore school committee oversight of the superintendent and/or receiver, including but not limited to goal setting, performance review, and the evaluation process.
Yeah.
On the following page, there are 3 bullets of rationale speaking to receivership as an equity issue. Receivership strips away the voices of the community that elected school committee members, and there are no clear guidelines set on the measures that need to be taken to get out of
Yeah, I like it.
receivership.
I move that we vote in the affirmative on resolution 7.
Motion made by Greg,
Second.
second by Beth. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, nay. And that motion carries 5-0.
Resolution 8 is electric school buses. Therefore, be it resolved that the MASC petition Congress to appropriate $30 billion for improving the electrical supply infrastructure and providing electric buses and charging stations.
I like this one too.
$30 billion.
What happened? I move that we support a vote in the affirmative of resolution 8.
Motion made by Greg,
I'll second it.
second by Beth. Any further discussion?
No.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. And that motion carries 5-0.
Resolution 9.
Uh-oh.
Yep, prohibiting the use of Native American mascots. Therefore, be it resolved that the Mass Association of School Committees support legislation calling for regulations prohibiting public schools from using an athletic team logo or mascot, which names refer to, represents, or is associated with Native Americans, including the aspects of Native American cultures and specific Native American tribes.
So if this passed, all those schools would have to change. all their-
Well, this, not if it passes the delegate assembly, it still has to be forwarded to the legislature and they would have to act upon it. I don't see that happening.
I feel like that's.
There is a
school
bill.
Do they
issue.
all have negative connotations? I'm trying to
That's what I
think.
was gonna ask.
I-
You know,
Not all.
and I'm a big proponent of local control, and so if
Yeah.
a local town had an issue, then they would deal with it.
Go
We don't
to
have
the
that here,
Right.
right, Spartan, so.
Ooh, that was a good call back in the day. Could have been the quarry.
I mean, if you see at the bottom, there is a current bill that, again, has not been enacted upon. And it's probably just gonna, because this, December 31st, this current legislative session ends and everything has to be refiled.
What do you think about this one, Nick?
I mean, I feel like we've talked about this in school before. I feel like I've written something about this.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't think it's like right to use them. Like, I mean, we don't have that problem here, but like we read about like this is actually like affecting kids and how I don't remember where, but I know I read it recently, but it was like this can affect kids like learning at school. Whereas like if they're seeing like, oh, this is how people perceive me, it kind of makes them not feel good about themselves.
Okay.
So we did talk about this once. So I think that you should like say yes to this
I didn't
because
think
I
of
feel
it
like it affects the kids at the school.
Individual perspective, I didn't think of that, yeah.
I do know who sponsored this and she's very, very passionate
Yeah.
about, to what you said, Nick.
Right.
That exact, I was at a meeting a while back and when they give division reports and this particular individual spoke almost directly about this
Yeah.
and the impact it had on individual students.
Interesting.
Interesting.
Okay.
I guess I always thought, and I'm fine, this is good. But you wonder sometimes if I guess it's like, we look at a Spartan as being a good thing. You know what I mean? And I guess that's where I've always had that disconnect where it's like we're and maybe it's wrong. Obviously it's wrong. But it's like you're like, but if they're your mascot, you're proud of them, And I guess that's why I always I'm certainly happy to vote yes on this, but I guess that's always kind of where I felt like I never myself as not being Native American at all on any
Right.
level, always thought, well, it's kind of an honor.
But if you were a Spartan, maybe you wouldn't like it as the mascot for us.
Correct?
Maybe,
I
yeah,
mean, this is,
yeah.
I mean, look what's going on across the country. This is a hotbed topic.
I vote that we
That's your
move,
point.
we support a
Okay.
vote in the affirmative of resolution 9.
All right,
Motion
second.
made by Greg,
I'll second.
second by Beth. All those in favor? Oh, any further discussion? I'm gonna add that I actually agree with Greg, his first statement on this, that I think that this is probably an issue that's better handled locally.
I do
and
feel
giving-
that way,
It is.
but
And giving districts and school committees and local governing boards the authority to kind of hear those perspectives.
Right.
Because to Beth's
it's
point,
important.
if it is seen as something, a source of pride versus to Nick's point, if it's not, to unilaterally shrink something.
Well, but is the minority viewpoint, should the minority viewpoint lose all the time? And I don't mean minority as in race or anything, but minority about minority versus majority in terms of numbers. So the one student or the 5 Native American students in the school, is it worth this resolution to address those 5 students?
If it's having that strong of an impact, then yes.
As I said, I know who sponsored this and she's very passionate
Yeah.
about it. Because she is part Native American, believe it or not, and that's,
Yeah.
I think that's where it came from. And where she is, she's on the Cape and there are, in her district,
Sure.
there's a lot of Native Americans.
It's worth the discussion, for sure.
Oh, it is.
All right, any further discussion after that? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, nay. And that motion carries 5-0. That was the last one, right, Bill?
That's it.
Excellent. All right, so now we have an updated agreement with the EL Recreation Department, Gordon.
We do.
Ma'am?
So, in your packets, we've taken, and actually, this was something that Mrs. Blair worked through with the Recreation Department. Basically, we've taken the existing agreement, we've updated it now that we're starting to move out of COVID operations. And over the last few years, we've tracked what the actual costs were in terms of overtime costs for events. And really what this agreement is I think there's a lot of confusion around this agreement sometimes. This is simply to cover costs of overtime for our custodians, as well as look at things such as how do we maintain the pool, what chemicals might be utilized in doing so, and other equipment such as some of the goals and so forth that are used on our fields. And I think we have an incredible partnership with our rec department, and we value that, and we always want to make sure that we're improving upon that. So this was a group effort, and our rec department does not pay a fee per se to use the schools. This is simply money that takes care of that overtime and the things that I mentioned. And I think that sometimes gets lost. We never charge the rec department. They are always first, they are first priority after school events. It goes to rec in terms of the use of our schools. And so I think that needs to be said. And so this is updated, and it outlines how we go about not only prioritizing certain things, but also the amount of money that would be transferred from the rec department to the school department through any school year.
Has that number changed? It's the same number, correct?
I think it's a little bit higher.
I think,
It's, it just got rounded up.
this 25,000 actually was supposed to be, I think, 26,000
Okay.
last year. The rec department wasn't able to give us any revenue because of the pandemic situation. We were able to absorb that. So again, a partnership with them, and we just took care of that. We track the custodial overtime for Park and Rec here in central office, a great staff that takes care of that, and we share that information with the rec department. And what it evolves down to is approximately like $21,000 worth of custodial overtime. And then that only leaves about $4,000 that goes towards, because no way does it cover all of the expenses for those things, like a little bit of the pool. So what we decided, and again, it was a great meeting, and we always collaborate together. We really enjoy this partnership. We're just going to look at it at year end. I mean, we certainly don't want to charge the rec department if our custodial fees are down for whatever reason. We certainly want to talk about that. But if they're up, we need to talk about it as well. So that's.
So Donna's good with the arrangement?
She is, yes.
Great.
Can you just clarify something? Looking at it on an annual basis, but this will be a 3-year
It is a
agreement?
3-year, but part of, we wrote in here, we certainly would take a look at it.
And make
Yes.
amendments based on the current financial
Exactly,
situation.
yeah, 'cause we
Okay.
don't want to close that out in case things did change.
Sure.
As we all know,
No,
how
I'm just making
quickly
sure that
things can
those two
change.
Yeah.
Yes,
lines are
thank
both
you.
in there. Okay.
I move that we approve the agreement with the East Long Meadow Recreation Department.
Motion made by, do you need the time? The years?
For FY 22 through 24.
Okay, so motion made by Greg.
Second.
Second by Antonella. Any further discussion? Thank you for taking the time to formalize that and making sure that it's captured. That will help, I think, everybody moving forward.
You're welcome.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And that motion carries 5-0. And then we have the MASC and the superintendent's conference this week.
This week, yeah.
Yep.
So that's just a reminder. I think there are virtual options if people wanted to take advantage of that. I know people may not want to or have not registered to go down. I actually was going down, but I am no longer going down. I have a little bit of catch-up work to do, so working on that. With that said, I just want to thank all of you for the support after my father passed. I know it's not necessarily part of this reminder, but that was pretty incredible, and I really appreciate that. That's all I'm going to say because I don't want to burst into tears. So.
Now, I was in a Zoom meeting on Friday, just because they created a different app this year that allows for all of the, I don't think there's going to be any handouts this year. Right now, there are 618 people attending in person, another 186 that have registered to be virtual. All of the handouts are already in this app. They're all PDFs. I'll send everybody the link so they can download it. And sessions are being added, sessions are being canceled. It's still a lot of, the Cape got devastated with that storm last week.
Right.
And in this meeting, the resort and conference center where the conference is being held in Hyannis, that was the only building in Hyannis that had power. And the reason was National Grid and Eversource were there and that was their headquarters. All right, so they were running and they didn't have power. They brought in generators to power the hotel, and that's where their base camp was. I didn't get any updates today, so I'm assuming everything is go, because they said in this meeting, and it was a Zoom meeting, they said, we'll let everybody know by Monday afternoon if this thing is gonna flip all the virtual, so I guess it's on.
Didn't flip? Oh,
Didn't
good.
flip, so.
All right.
Well, hopefully we'll have some good information to come back,
I
whether
know.
it's virtual or in person.
Yep.
Maybe next year it'll be normal.
Maybe.
Well, we'll see.
For Health Night, Dawn, thank you. LCAT, Nick, thanks for staying for 2.5 hours this evening. even
No,
though
I
you
had
don't have
fun.
school
Thank you.
tomorrow.
Riveting.
Thanks for all the insight, Nick.
Yes.
Yes.
That was it's really valuable.
And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
Made by Bill,
I'll second.
second by Beth. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Hi.
Aye. Opposed, nay. And that motion carries 5-0. Thank you, everybody, and see you in 2 weeks.